Because it's
Okay.
one thing that the pastor touched upon.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, haven't seen you in a few. How you been? You're on.
Oh, I think you're
mute?
muted.
Okay, now, up and out.
There you go.
How you been, JC?
Okay, good.
We missed you last week.
Enjoying
Yeah,
Seattle.
In Seattle, yeah. How was your trip?
It's alright. Yeah, it's tiring, but
How
it's
you
hot too.
Yeah. Hot in Seattle too, huh?
Yeah, it was
Was that?
Hot in Seattle too?
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
90.
Cool.
heat wave up there.
How's it? Everything good?
I'm doing well. We're actually just in the middle of a discussion, so it'll be awesome if you want to chime in. Let me greet my Facebook family and friends first. So we're having a discussion right now just about different Bible versions, and as far as like which one's the best. And Jason, he says, well, he kind of likes the.
The sound is kind of cutting in and out. Is there a...
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so we're just talking about different versions of popular versions of Bible, right? And Jason, you said what? Like this, you feel like this is close. The King James is closer to the original, right?
No, I just said that I wouldn't want to switch to a different version because those have missing verses or whatever that King James has. But even then, I feel like King James, I don't know, because I don't know too much about it, but like Isaiah says, it's closest to the original. But it's still not the original, it's closest. So if that's the case, it's like, does it even really matter which version we really read?
Well, I say yes. It depends on where your goal is. King James version is not the first original. It's not the oldest English translation of the Bible, but it is one of the earliest. Is it better because it has more? I don't think so. But I think Mike and Jason kind of feels like they think it's older, and then therefore it's more comprehensive or more inclusive.
I think it's my headphones on.
What is all that mumbling?
This cutting in and out.
It's probably background noise.
Probably background noise.
Yeah. He's I think
That's probably what's cutting in.
McDonald's, right.
Yeah, that's probably what's cutting in and out for him.
Okay.
What is it? My headphones?
Yeah, I think because we're hearing some other chatter as well, so it's probably picking up like other people around you, and that might be affecting your audio of us.
How's this? Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I can hear you pretty good.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe if you close the window.
Should be alright. So, the King James version was created like what in the 16th century?
1611.
16, yeah. Okay, 1611. Since then, archaeologists have dug up what? We got the Dead Sea Scrolls, we got the Nag Hammadi library, right? And those additional discoveries of scriptures has definitely, as far as I understand, helped enhances our understanding when we're comparing different papyrus. So I feel like even though, as far as English version goes, the King James may be one of the earliest and the oldest, but it may not necessarily be the most accurate from a scholarly perspective. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because those recent discoveries have kind of slightly altered the translation of these Bible, to my knowledge. And but overall, as far as I know, it doesn't change the meaning. It doesn't really change the context, just a few words. Because we're having discussions like, hey, do we want to continue with the King James or maybe move on to like a version that's slightly easier for at least me and Jason to read? I know me and Jason struggle. I think Mike has gotten pretty used to the lingo. So and then that kind of started off this whole debate about, well, which version, if we were to make this switch, which version would be best? which one do we want to go with, and also what Isaiah mentions, like, well, he obviously feels like, King James is like the only legit version, and everything else is like heresy and blasphemy of God. so
I understand this
yeah.
thing. I think I'm fine with King James. It is an old version. The problem with King James is it's not a good study Bible. It was meant to be a study Bible. So that's the only thing. So if we want to read it, I think that's fine. But if you want to study or to, you really need something that's more aligned to the original text. And like you said, a lot of research has been done on finding
Right.
after King James was approved.
Yeah.
So that's why they actually printed out a new King James. And so King James is fine reading. I think it's good. I'm fine with reading it. I like reading it. They use it.
Yeah, it's like the overall message is still the same. It doesn't really change. I think like 95, 98% are the same. And, so it's not going to change the message. But I personally find it a little bit. For my slow head. It's a struggle to kind of comprehend. I have to go back and read it again. Where it's like sometimes.
Yeah, and so that's why I think readability is key. If you're comfortable and you're used to reading King James for Elkins, Isaiah, Mike you can read anything.
Yeah. Dude, that Everlasting Man was such a difficult read.
Which one?
The Everlasting Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, man.
His writing is killer. T.K. Chesterton, he's good.
It's crazy. I still kind of got to go over because it's a difficult read.
It's hard.
Yeah.
But if you can get T.K. Chesterton, his stuff is, he's like kind of old. He's like, he's really clever in English.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get lost.
Yeah.
And so that's why, going back to the idea of, King James can be readable. Yeah, it's readable. But as a study Bible, probably not the best. But as a companion to a study Bible, I think it's fine. But I think the key thing, I agree with you, it's readability. And that's why they came out with all these different versions, because people put different Bibles. So
Yeah. Yeah, the reason they came out with this thing is just for the same reason. It's because they want to put it in a language that, in their time, that everyone can read. But this is like 500 years ago, so they talk a little bit differently back then. So what's easy for them to read, now it's difficult for us because how language has evolved. So I got two quick questions for you, just kind of for my own curiosity. Do you have a favorite version? What is your favorite version, just for you? That's question one. And question two is, for what we do here, do you have a recommended version for Bible study?
Yeah, I think. So personally, I used to use I started with it 90, and now when I went to start taking Bible classes, instead of originally, we went to NASB.
Which one?
NASB.
Okay.
The New American Standard.
Oh.
And I used that for a little bit, and then I switched over to the English Standard, to the ESV. Okay. The ESV, I use that now mostly because that's what most Bible teachers that I kind of, or if you understand the Bible, they use that translation. So it's really just a matter of convenience. So,
Yeah, he's putting it out.
Yeah, but when it comes to a favorite version, I don't know if I have a favorite, but I do know that considering how we're discussing things, either the NASB or the ESV, which are literal translations, they're not the best translations.
There's no perfect, right? Yeah.
But like the NIV is good for me, so it can capture meaning when the message is totally weird, but totally captures the meaning. But the message is not a good study. It's a good Bible education. It was meant for the people of the time. So, And so the message is one that I refer to once in a while. But for our purposes, I think we can do NASB or ESV. Either of those are good. Only because the way that this discussion goes, everybody's good enough to use that.
Cool.
What do you
And
think
if
of?
not,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
well, let's say if not, then we can go NIV. You know, NIV it's a good kind of a balance, but again, the ESV and the NASB are better study Bibles. Only because the capture is better, and then we can use other versions to verify kind of what was the meaning in time. But I think the Holy Spirit is very good for a group. You know, Mike can basically say, Matthew 24 can be kind of choppy. It is, 200 can be too, but I'm always looking for a good Bible study that what God would give us through everybody here. It's been pretty amazing so far. So, I think using a good study Bible is going to be good. NIV is definitely more readable, but considering the type of intellect that we have in fellowship here, I think NASB really is
Interesting.
What are your thoughts on the NLT?
Basically, it's just all preference.
Yeah, that would be like the more fluent position. So that's really
You know, because we have like 5 different Jasons, but like
Yeah.
5
So I
different
would
answers.
have to
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yes, and it's
So it's like one thing is like, dude, who are you asking where you're getting your information from, you know?
they make us PR
What?
sometimes.
He studied.
You know, how
He
we
knows
get-
his shit.
Yeah, how they see it.
Hmm.
Then you can use that, and you can use the message too. Use the message.
More than me, at least.
Okay.
The living translation is definitely legit. It's just it's more just to get meaning across than
Yeah.
to. So if you want to study it, you might have a little bit of trouble because you're kind of locked into it.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No,
Thanks.
How many different versions have you read yourself?
Let's see. King James, New King James, the Message, NASB, New Living Translation, NIV, ESV, Irish version, Mongolian version, Thai version,
Wow.
Okay.
and so I've looked through all of those, and definitely the Chinese version has a lot of good because the way they translate it, especially in Greek, it translates from Greek pretty well. Not so sure about Greek. I think the words that the Greeks use somehow that they use in Chinese are more specific, that they match. Not as much. Because English we have often broad terms versus Chinese.
Interesting. Yeah, because those are 2 complete different language families. You know, well,
Yeah.
Greek and English, they're at least of the Indo-European
Yeah.
flavor. You know, because obviously Chinese.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird, you know, like if you read it in Chinese and you read it in English, you read it in Greek, you think, people in Chinese actually much worse.
Probably. Too bad my Chinese sucks.
Well, but you know, and this my Chinese is terrible too, but I think it's just the fact that it's not as Western English. Greek still has kind of that, like you said, Indo-European. So I don't know if that's it. But I'm good with any version. You know,
Okay.
If Isaiah wants to use the King James, you know, I'm okay with that. Just the readability.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna research a little more into this. You know, we'll chat some more. Good to have you back. Shall we?
Feedback is different.
Yeah.
Would you mind praying for us before we start?
Sure, that's right.
Hey, Jason, pretty sure this one's yours. No, wait, this is mine.
Yeah, that's why I gave it
I
to you.
don't recognize my own. All right.
So, Father, we're grateful that you gave us something. Begin to give fellowship. But Lord, we know that our fellowship is not just us, but you. So we give this time, Lord, to each other and pray about each other. To truly get to know you more, and to know your word, and to do it rightly, not to do it in a way that's not going to honor you or get to the truth. So we thank you for what you give us. We know that it's good. Pray, Lord, that you bless us. Bless each of us. Thank you.
Wow.
Amen. Amen. The audio, just FYI, audio from you is really choppy today, so we're struggling a little bit to hear you.
Yeah, I think it's just the background noise.
Yeah, there's a little background music.
Yeah, I think it cuts
It's
out.
all okay. We'll live with it.
We'll read your lips.
Okay, so now that you're here, I want to go back to last week because it just kind of bothered me last week and for the whole time. So hopefully maybe you can share some insight. Well, I don't know if we can hear what he says.
Well,
22.
We think we should give it a shot.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if
okay.
anything, maybe he could just type it. We'll just do it on chat.
All right, 41 to 46, 20, 22. You think we get to one or two chapters today?
I'm hoping to,
Okay.
but really three. But yeah, I don't know.
All right, you skip through it?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay.
So I don't know I know he's trying to make a point,
Mhm.
but I don't know what point he's trying to make. And I know this is probably not that important in the whole scheme of things, but my goal is to try to understand every single sentence in this whole book. So, and then I don't understand.
See, what I kind of understand from it is that he's trying to explain how the Messiah will be both of human and of divinity. But my kind of question on it is how does that necessarily relate to him in a sense? Because it's like some random guy could just go up and say the Messiah is going to be this and this. I'm that person. Now, how does I know there's other things that have led up to this point where Jesus has done miracles and taught other things that would prove as him as such, but what's to say what some random guy that didn't just go up there and say yeah, the Messiah will be this, he will be that, and I am that person,
Wait, so you have these questions too, or what?
That was my question on
Okay,
that.
my question is completely different than Mike's. So the way I see this part, 41 to 46, Pharisees asked Jesus a question, right? He's like, what Pharisees got together? Jesus? Okay, no, Jesus asked Pharisees a question. It's like, hey, what do you think of Christ? I don't think he's referring to himself. He's like, because Christ is Messiah, it's a title, right? So I think Jesus was saying to the Pharisees, hey, this Messiah guy, what do you think of him, right? And then they replied back, it's like, well, Messiah, of course, is the son of David, right? And then Jesus in 43 says, well, then how would David call the Messiah Lord? Right? And then he quotes the old scripture, the Lord from the Old Testament, the big Lord says to the little Lord, blah, 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 blah. Right? What he says, I think, is irrelevant to my question. If David calls the Messiah Lord, then how is he his son? Right? So this is my translation of it. getting pestered. Take you and your Bible. Get out of here.
Where's this one? Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I kind of agree with Mike on this one. I think the opening question that Jesus is trying to answer here is that he's the Son of God. And I think the Pharisees, they didn't want to admit it because people were starting to think that Jesus is that he is the Messiah. And so Jesus, he's asking, you don't want to admit it, but I know you know. I know you're saying Jesus is dead. Right. And so they see Jesus as Jesus. They see him as a man. So how can a man be God? Right? To them, it's and so Jesus here would have to tell them, well, why is that impossible? Why is it not possible that man can be both? A man can be God. God can take him. And so when he posed the question about David, a man, saying to God, and the Lord said to him, Lord. And then the Pharisees saying that he's the son of David makes them have to realize, well, either.
Oh, okay. I think I get it. I think I get it.
This 45 should
Okay.
be. Yeah, 45 should be like, well, then if this is the case, then not a literal of.
So just explain it to me when you figured it out, because I'm not really listening to all this back and forth stuff.
Yeah, it's a little hard to hear.
So if you
Okay. So
you want to explain it to me after you figure it out?
there's a premise that is not mentioned here, and that premise is that the Pharisees do not believe the Messiah is a man, a human being, right?
Right.
The Bible doesn't say that. So from a logical perspective, they should say that. It's like the Pharisees do not believe Messiah is the Son of God, and Jesus says, well, then who's the Son of God? Well, the Son of God is the Son. I don't know. Sorry. Jesus says, who is Messiah then? Well, Messiah is the son of David. Well, if if the Messiah came from David, who's a human, then why would David call his own son a Lord?
Right.
Implying that Messiah can be a God and a human at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I said last week.
So who's David's son?
Huh?
Who's David's son?
Messiah.
Did he have a name?
No, but in this case, Jesus saying, I am that Messiah. So in this case, that Messiah's name is Jesus. But to the Pharisees, there's no name.
Oh, so it's not literally David's son, it's someone within David's lineage.
David, remember we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So only piece of information I was
Jesus' question clearly pointed out to the Pharisees that those they call the son of David would sit at the right hand of the throne of God. Yeah, this is Jesus.
I kind of want to talk to Isaiah about this. So, let's just say Isaiah, right? Take everything literal. So, that's what I'm kind of doing. And, so what's David's son's name that they're talking about? You know what I mean?
There's no name. It's not.
Yeah, but it's he's not literally talking about his son. It's talking about his lineage, right?
Right.
They use that.
Yeah, so it's kind of dude. So going with Isaiah's argument.
Well, no, there's
Isaiah.
supposed to be a name, right? Like Emmanuel or something.
They'll call him Emmanuel. Yeah,
Right.
that was one of the things. But what was that? God with us, right? Emmanuel. Yeah.
Is that a name or is it a title?
I think it's a name. Well, the Old Testament just says, "We shall call him Emmanuel."
Yeah. So it could either be title or name. We don't necessarily know. My question, my thing was, and I think you probably had a little question too, was on 21:44. I get the part of it will grind him to powder,
It's
but
this,
shall
basically.
fall on this shall be broken. Like,
Oh yeah.
what does that
So
first
this
part
is basically
really?
he's just trying to say.
I kind of felt like, you know, whoever comes to
Messiah
believe in Jesus will fall on him and will be broken apart from his sin,
Human.
Yeah.
his sinful
But
self.
they didn't say that here.
But there's a
They
few
just
different
assume the
interpretations,
reader
and
knows.
I was just kind of
So
curious,
that's
like, you know, what was
why
your take
I
on that?
didn't get that logical.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I mean, the idea that if the one who falls on the stone will be broken to pieces. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that
So they thought the Messiah was just going to be like a non-human. And Jesus is just saying, no,
he's been broken
can be both human and
his bodies.
Right.
given what he's
Right.
The idea that the one who
Wait, do
falls
they
on
believe
the
that?
is going to be broken. But if
coming, right?
That only makes sense if this part only makes sense if the Pharisees believe that the Messiah was God only.
It's going to come from
I'm with
heaven.
you on this one.
Okay.
So,
No,
Okay.
no,
Just wanted to
right? Because that's
Thanks.
okay.
This is
I
story
have
is
no
Messiah.
idea.
you don't like, I think, you don't like, I mean, I really think, you know, God's really considered for this. Reveals a lot. Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. Because sometimes I feel like, you know, you guys ask me well, you know, but when I thought, it sounds like both of you know, that both of you are given revelation. I'm just making agreement.
Okay. I just want to make sure again that I'm not like.
What do you
Yeah.
So we're confirming each other's revelation.
Okay.
what do you say?
What are you guys saying talking about?
Just I guess our understanding is it seems to be pretty good.
Okay. So how about so what do you say? What do you say about 44? Whosoever shall fall in the sun shall be broken. Whosoever it shall fall shall be granted powder.
So we understand the
44.
21:44.
Yeah.
So again, you know, my kind of interpretation was that, and I guess he says he kind of agrees, is that the second part of that verse seems kind of fairly easy, like, you know, whoever's not will not accept me will be grounded, you know.
Sure.
But those who, so the first part I feel that is that
Is it
when
like-
we fall upon Jesus, we will be broken apart from our sinful self. And,
That's a lot of interpretation.
but he gave me told me about Psalm 51. I need to read through it, and I'll read through that a little later. I'm gonna just make a note to myself too.
So while Mike's reading that,
I'll do it later.
I want to go back to 41 to 46 more. Okay, so the only way that this makes sense if the Pharisees believe that the Messiah is God and God only. Is that the case here? Do they really believe the Messiah is God? Is I guess spiritual, supernatural only? Is that their belief?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, go for
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
No. I feel I don't know because I see different things in Old
Well,
Testament.
let's hear. What do you think?
Well, what was that one verse that I sent to you the last week? Here, I have the notes. What was it? Jeremiah 23:5-6. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch is capitalized, and the king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In the days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, and this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our righteousness, and Lord is capitalized. So, you know, it says that someone's going to come out of David, a branch is going to come out of David.
Right.
So then and then they shall call him Lord our righteousness, or Lord Almighty, and the Lord is all capitalized. So in a sense, you see both humanity and divinity in it.
Okay, so if the Pharisees read the Old Testament and they're familiar with this passage, then they should also agree that it is possible for the Messiah, if not necessary, for the Messiah to be both human and
Yeah.
God.
But I feel like the Pharisees at this point only believed that the Messiah would just be human and not have any divinity in him. Or maybe they just chose not to believe him. I don't know.
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, but it doesn't say that here. So
Wait, so I mean, because you're just reading more stuff out of the Bible, right?
yeah,
So it's like, how do we know what the Pharisees go by and believe? The Old Testament?
the Old Testament.
So whatever's written in there, that's basically what they're going by.
That's we assume, yeah, but we don't know how much of the Old Testament, their interpretation of that, because obviously here comes this new Jewish guy named Jesus, who interpret things a lot differently than the Pharisees. You know, so
The other thing also was just that it was Jesus, you know, and you know, Jesus would say that if it was someone else who came, you know, like making them feel good, they would accept it. Jesus came making them feel like crap.
Yeah.
Just why they, you know, they're like, but we don't want this.
Yeah.
We don't. We
So,
think he's just.
so kind of like in a sense, like
Just
Jesus is
he's
kind
not
of
God.
twisting the
And
Old
Jesus says, well, I am the Son of God too.
that's what he's been
And
doing
so-
all the time. He
So
just
again,
takes Old
really it's
Testament,
personalized.
twists it around a little bit,
They just don't want Jesus.
sends it back to Pharisees and Sadducees, and then he's essentially using the Bible, using the Old Testament against them, because they all believe in the Old Testament. So every time the Pharisees had to say, "Hey, you're not following the rules. Hey, you're not doing this," Jesus said, "Well, did you read this part in the Old Testament?" And this old,
Right,
he'll
right.
just like kind of turn things around. Like you turn the Old Testament around against them, and that like frustrates the Pharisees and Sadducees. He does that over and over again. I'm sure he'll continue doing
And
that.
that's what like this part is.
Yeah. And we'll see.
Yeah.
And then 23, we'll see a lot of it because he starts like putting the
Goes
Pharisees
on,
on one.
it goes on.
He goes off. on
Okay,
it.
okay.
So I mean,
That's
so
interesting.
what does that mean? Does that mean like the Old Testament's flawed to begin with then?
No.
Or what is that? Because it's kind of like, you know, we have a set of rules.
Yeah, there's
A newcomer
different
comes in,
right.
and all of a sudden it's like, no, like, well, it starts changing everything, right?
Kinda.
Is it like, is that even like, you know what I mean?
Why do you
It's
think
like-
they wanted to
Here's the
kill
thing,
him?
though, it's like-
Yeah.
Why do you think they want him dead?
So is it like, was it right for them to do that? Like, you know, because it's kind of like, you know, you're accepting like all this change and difference, right? But like you've had your rule book from like all this time. So does it,
Right.
is it kind of like accept change all the time, whether good or bad? Who knows like what's gonna happen? Is that like kind of like the meaning or the
No, I think
lesson behind everything?
No, I think the main thing is that, you know, Pharisees, these religious leaders, they're still man. They don't have the knowledge and understanding that God or even the Son of God would have. So their interpretations of it can be flawed, just because as humans we're all flawed
Yeah.
somehow or another. You know. What I
So-
mean? So it seems like, you know, especially when we were kind of going through the Sermon on the Mount, that, and plus with this 23 that we'll see, is that the Pharisees kind of believe out of their own human intuition and stuff, which might not always align with what God really intended it to be. You know.
And you know, that last line you said, I love, because people's been saying that throughout entire human history. No. You guys got it all wrong. We got it right this time. You know, we have a prophet. You know, that's how modern.
So like in turn, so like let's just say 1,000 years from now, like, you know, like let's just say the second coming, and he could be like, no, you guys as Christians
you guys got
still
it.
interpret my
Yeah.
second part wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very
And it's like,
Well, how do you
dude,
think
you
that-
guys are still getting it wrong. I came here and
You
like
don't
I thought I
have to
set you
get it
guys
wrong.
straight, and you guys are still getting it wrong. It's like, bam, like
We probably
round two,
are,
right?
right? There's a lot in the church.
So
that
you,
think,
you can even go with that example, because this is why I kind of trip out about reading the Bible. And what pastor, you know, we had a question, right? Like, what is Christianity? Like, you know, his example, I don't have it down, right? But he said, like, let's just say, you know, you had to fill out your information sheet, and you had a boxes of which religion you are, and you're gonna check off Christian, right? But what defines you as a Christian?
You
Or like what?
believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
You believe in Jesus died for your sin,
Uh-huh.
and What, and then you believe
You
in
know,
salvation.
you know what's funny? Is
That's the
he
basic.
said no. He said no. He said no. It's not because you believe in God. There's many gods.
You believe in
We're
the
kind of going over
God.
this nature.
Yeah, like the God, like whatever. And he was just like, no. His basic bottom answer was, it's what's in your heart.
Well, that's very subjective.
I mean,
If you believe
and
in-
what's in your heart, I guess it's for God to decide, kind of. You know what I mean?
If there's
Which
a
kind of
God to
like
decide.
made sense to me because you know when somebody always asks me, like, dude, are you saved? And it's like, how do I know if I'm saved? Well, if you did this and this and this and this, and like, dude, I can ask like 1,000 people, I'm gonna get 1,000, at least what I feel, 1,000 bullshit answers, right? You really
Sure.
believe everybody, and like a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people don't really truly know what's in their heart. They, you know, I could catch you on one day, and you can have this mood, and the next day you can have this mood. So depending on what day I catch you, ask you questions, I'm gonna get different answers. But when it comes down to it, how I feel is you don't really know yourself 100%, but God does, and He will have the answers which you don't. So that's why I don't like answering those kind of questions, because depending what day you ask me, I could be like, I don't give a fuck. Next day I could be like, yo, you know what? Dude, I'm so sorry. I'm so this and that. But at the end, you know, it's for God to decide, and that's why I don't like answering those questions. That's why I don't really like, you know, doing all this stuff, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it messes with my heart.
Messes with your
It
heart.
confuses my heart. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we're having a doubter amongst our midst.
No, it's not. It's
You
not.
know,
It's
here's the
not
funny
a
thing.
doubter.
we atheists, we have a saying, the best way to deconvert someone is to make them actually read the Bible. It's a joke, but you know, it's like you kind of see where it's coming
No,
from.
it's not. It's not. It's not doubting. It's kind of like, you know, like you drive a car, right? You just need to know where the steering wheel is, the gas pedal is, the shifter, whatever turn signals, basic operations. Do you need to know how much combustion and how many cylinders and all? I kind of feel like, dude, I don't really need to know and deep dive.
Okay.
I just need to know the basics, and it's like, dude, I'm happy with that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's an excellent That's an excellent analogy.
I don't need to know like
Yeah.
what material you use to make the windshield with, the process for it. I don't need to know like the stitching material.
Majority of people out there just like, hey, this is a car. As long as it runs, it drives, it's fine. But then there's people kind of like me and Mike. You know, we're both car guys. Like, oh, what's the compression ratio? What's the cylinder? What's the output? What's the
How do we get the
horsepower to
most out
wheel?
of it? You know?
how do
Yeah,
we
but
get-
at the
who's
same
not-
time, that all goes back to interpretation.
well, since we're
And like,
messing with cars is more mechanical. There's science. There's experiments
Yeah.
to suggest that this is words that's based off human interpretation and thoughts. So this is a lot more subjective,
Yeah.
open to interpretation. So
I
this so far that this Bible thing, this little thing we got here has kind of evolved into people who like to tear apart engines and dig deep. And it's like, what makes piston goes
But-
up and down? You know, what's the fuel ratio?
But my thing is like, you
But
know,
it's not
within
for
your
everyone.
lifetime, you're not gonna figure it out. It's kind of like
But
almost
it's
like,
fun. It's
yeah.
fun for some people.
But-
It's not fun for everybody.
yeah, for me, it's not really my
It's
thing.
not your thing.
It's because it's like, dude, you're never gonna finish it.
It's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
It's about the process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always.
We will never get to the truth.
yeah.
I don't believe we'll ever get to the
My
truth.
thing is, it's not my hobby.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what? We're here pretty much almost every Sunday afternoon, and your presence is
yeah, I mean, it's
much appreciated.
it's interesting to read about it, but I just kind of feel like with, you know, at least with the car, like answers are straightforward, right?
More or less.
With this, it's kind of like everybody's feelings and interpretation and like
yeah.
the way they go about it, and it's kind of like,
Okay, so I think I understand. It's like because of all these questions we've been raising, I think for Jason here, it's creating a lot of even more questions and more confusions. and he doesn't feel like there's a way that we can get to the answer. And I think we all agree that we'll never know what the actual truth is. And for Jason, correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, you would like to have that confirmation. It's like, okay, black is black, white is white, I got it. But the more we read, the more blurry it appears to you, and that doesn't make you feel good.
No, it's like too many answers, personal opinions,
It is.
feelings, and like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
It
oh,
absolutely
dude.
is.
Kind of like Isaiah, like, you know, if he wants to take it literal, a day is a day, right?
Yeah.
And, like, Pastor explained it, and he was saying their version of day and time is different from what we believe it to be now. So it's like, whoa, like, what is it? So we need to define everything, right? So, like, what else does that go for? Like, do we need to start defining everything? And if that's the case, like, I feel like we should spend a whole session just for one little
Yeah.
session, and
But
like,
you know
going
what-
through like
what
a
I-
chapter
what
is
I-
way too fast.
What I think could benefit you,
Uh-huh.
maybe, right? Rather, because I guess me, Mike, and maybe JC, you know, would like to break it down deep, right? But focus on the message, because there is a lot of good, positive message in here. And, you know, as a Christian, someone who does believe and follow Christ, focus on the message and maybe not so much on the nitty-gritty details that we like to get into
I think
sometimes.
before getting into the nitty gritty detail, I think you should at least read the Bible full through, because there's gonna be a lot of things that reference to other parts of the Bible that's not gonna make sense until, you know, even now, like when I read through, it's like, okay, I have so much better understanding when I first read the first time, and I can start
Did you
diving
your,
in.
your read through was it King James?
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's still even after going through once, it's like you're still not gonna understand everything, and then but at least you'll kind of have a better context of the whole thing, as opposed to reading just one thing. It's like, okay, what is the context? There's so much more context to it, you know.
There is, yeah. People have been studying this shit for like more than 2,000 years, and then
Yeah.
they continue to, and they will still continue. There's people smarter than all of us combined, with more experience, more knowledge, and all of us combined, and they still don't have all the answers, and they still argue and debate with each other. Well, this is this is that. So you're absolutely right. It is open to interpretations and opinions. You know?
Yeah,
How many times have you read through the
I
Bible,
don't really feel like
Jason?
being added to that list of people. You know what I mean?
I've read through
Like,
it,
I kind of like have my heart like set and like I feel
you know,
good
I
about it.
still went to the Bible over
And
the
it's like
years.
this is just like, dude, it's like
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. I guess.
yeah.
I understand how
And you're still
coming
learning,
from.
right?
Yeah,
Well, not at all. Not even close.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think what Jason needs, and I think this is the beautiful part of Bible study, is that there is, and like Betty said, there is a message. You know, there's a practical aspect to this, and but that only happens when you experience the God that you're learning. And so, as we study the Word, we get to know God. We get to see His character. We get to see that He's love. You know, people might say He's angry all the time, but most of you know He's not angry all the time. Right? He's only angry about one or two things. Angry about whole bunch of stuff. And but the important thing is that can you actually experience that after knowing this? So, for example, you know, if you just want to blind date somebody, it's hit or miss. But if you had known a little bit more about them and you find out that that's really who they are, you probably have a much more enjoyable time. You know, when you actually experience it. And that's the whole point, is there's a relationship. And so when God is calling, you know, Jason, what God is calling you to, it's a relationship with Him, and then also to experience it. To experience it in so many aspects. So for example, you know, you should come and talk to my wife. Her mom just accepted Christ this last week. And that's after, you know, years and years of being Buddhist and, you know, asking for them, they're just having a miserable life. You know? And but my wife can tell you that the reason why she believes is not because of me or anybody else. She'll tell you, I didn't even try to convince her to believe in Jesus. Just told her, you know, Christian, I love you, but whether or not, that's up to you. But certainly, you know, of course, I love my wife, and of course, my wife saw that. That's a part of it. But really, what happened is she wanted stuff. And so she asked God for stuff. And she really believed that there was a God who could provide it. And so she trusted him. And God gave it to her. And then she said, okay, I'll pray again. And after about the fourth or fifth time, she realized it's not coincidence. And so, it's something that's very personal between you and God. God will help you to experience it so that you'll see. So all this Bible study, this is theology. A lot of what we're doing is theological, very philosophical. It is a lot of good knowledge. But in the end, are you able to experience that? And Jason, that's my prayer. Like I pray for everybody. And my prayer is that all of us would experience it, in the way that God wants us to experience it personally. It could be so much as, Lord, I'm short on money. Lord, I need a job. Lord, my friend is short on sick. Little things like that. When you believe that God is there, then He'll do it for you. So, Jason, my suggestion is really ask God. I want to experience you. I'm learning all this stuff. It's just confusing, but it's not going to be confusing. Is to see that you are who you say. And then everything that we read here, so much love pieces too. And that's kind of a Jason, does that help?
Did you catch that? You were saying you need to first develop your spiritual side with God or Jesus. And after you have that, then this would have more of a context, more meaning, more connection to you.
I mean, I kind of feel like I have what's funny was, during. Hey, Jason, I just came back from a retreat.
Oh yeah, how was it?
It was cool. So one thing that I noticed is, the whole, one of the main messages was like, dude, you guys are gonna meet God this weekend. You guys are gonna meet God. We'll help you try to meet God this weekend. When you do meet Him, blah 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 blah.
You went on a retreat?
Yeah, so I went on a retreat. So my thing was what if some people have already met God? You don't really know your audience, and you have this message and this kind of thing, but it's what if you already met God? Now it's kind of wait, did I meet Him? What the hell they're saying? I'm gonna meet God? Whoa, I thought I met God. So it's have you ever met God before? Did you meet God? How do you know you met God? You know what I mean? So now it's kind of dude, it's all interpretation. It's all bro, I'm just kind of this is the main reason why I don't like doing all of this, is because I kind of feel like people have their own, not really agenda, but their own ideas about other people. And it's dude, Benny, you really need God. But it's how do I even know if you've ever met God before? I don't know your beliefs. I don't know anything about you really. But it's you just come off and, start with that whole spiel. You know what I mean?
But I think one thing we have, at least from my perspective, we have going on here, is that we try as much as possible not to have agendas. Hey, let's just read it and try to understand it for what it is. And if we don't understand, we'll go to other Bibles and or websites to give us understanding. But the way we're reading it, it's not oh, this is true, or you must read the King James Bible. It was Jesus says this. It was just if he says something good, the way I read it is oh, he says something good, it's oh, that's nice. And he says some not so nice stuff. I was oh, that's fucked up, Jesus, right?
Yeah, so my bottom line is, kind of with everything, it's dude, I'm content. And I don't like doing this whole talking, arguing, different idea thing. I would rather keep it. Yeah, but I'd rather just keep it with my personal relationship and leave it as that. I like to keep my personal relationships private, basically. You know what I mean?
I think that's wonderful. Me as an atheist, I think if more Christians are out there who believes in what you do, we'll be a slightly better place. Just hey, you got your belief, I got my belief. Mine's personal, it's private between me. Let's leave it at that.
It's kind of I believe my God is good and this and that, and you're yeah, he's good, but he can also be you know, like he could also be like strict on this and that and this and that, and like then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's weird because I don't feel the same way, and we start arguing. I don't like to argue about this kind of stuff and just go in circles forever, and that's what I kind of learned. It's like, dude, all of this just goes in circles and circles and circles, and like when I start thinking about it, dwelling about it, like I literally break my brain. And my bottom line conclusion is, dude, it's a personal thing for everybody. You do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. I'm with
like
that.
we kind of
100%.
discuss it, but you know, you need to understand that this will never end.
Man, what happened to that retreat, man? They don't fuck with you a lot, huh?
No, I mean this is how
He comes back, he's like, no more.
this is how I've always felt.
Yeah, I know. And I said it a long time ago, and I was like, you know what? You don't need to do all this in order to be a quote-unquote good Christian.
This is how I've always felt, but I'm just kind of seeing like how other people do it now. You know what I mean? Because I've never really been involved, but now I'm getting involved, and it's like, oh, interesting. Oh, interesting.
You learn a lot of new things.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You know what I
learn a lot
mean?
of new things, right? And when you go to retreat, don't you feel like you're more mentally, intellectually prepared for the discussion because we've gone through this exercise? Like, oh, you're like, I know what you guys are talking about. I read this part. I heard this part. We had this discussion. Don't you feel like you're more knowledgeable on at least this subject? They're enormous, right? I'm not saying you're
I
right.
mean, because right now we're reading like Bible. I kind of feel like, you know, when you go to church, it's like more like philosophies, kind of in a sense, you know, like how to live and like, you know,
Well,
community
okay.
and
Well, we
how
have a
to do
pastor
this.
right here, so
Yeah.
nobody knows the church portion better than him as far as everyone in this room. You know, so maybe he can give you some context about what or why they say what they say in doing church services. Yeah, but no one's forcing you, and I agree with you. I think maybe everyone in this room agrees. It is between your heart and what's above.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a perfectly good chance that you could have the wrong guy.
Yeah, with the Bible study, you know, it's focused, you know, we have to focus in the Bible study. It's really on the Word. But you're right, Jason. You know, it really is not. There's no real end in it. It really is just about, you know, is the God that we know consistent?
Yeah.
His Word. And if He is, well, then we can get to know Him. In the end, though, you know, like you said, it is very personal. And there's no way for, like, I would never try to tell somebody, oh, you need to believe in Jesus. And tell them that. I would just say, you know, hey, if you want to, he's noble. And if you want to, you definitely could. And if you want to know more, you don't have to, you know, help you, know more. But in the end, that experience has to be between you and God. And so, you know, but how do you know you're actually having an experience with God? Which you know He is. Then it could be, like you said, it could be any God out. You know, I mean, the devil is deceiving people. You know, and so we want to make sure that when we do experience it, it's a real thing. And when you look at the words, this is consistent. You know, and then you say, Mike, did you have the same thing? Yeah, it's consistent. You go to other Christians and say, oh, it's consistent. And then you'll meet up some Christians. You know, might become weird. That's not consistent. Well, then that person's just not, you know, he's not in the Word. But there's one common spirit you'll find, even though each of our experiences is unique. And that's kind of what I'm hoping. So you will experience God in that especially unique way that only God can experience with you. It's nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my kingdom. Or is it anyone I know God? It's kind of going to be you, but once that happens, you know, then then hopefully you'll have that kind of peace about it. And so that's why I would say, you know, begin with just trusting them and saying, Lord, I need something. I need to know that you're there to do that person went, but nobody else can have that. So you need. And he'll honor that if you believe you keep honors it. And then when you experience it, you still have it down. There's a thing that's really you that will something else. And God will keep doing that until you realize, okay, God, and so I would continue on that vision. So Bible study is Bible study. It's just getting but the experience of it is going to be different. I mean, in the Bible, we have stories of people experiencing God different. I mean, the 12 apostles all experienced peace. And soon it's like for us. But there's a central thing that God is love. We know that. It's going to be true for everyone. How he loves each of us is different. But it's going to be the case. The rewards that we get in heaven, they will all be different. But there will be rewards that's specific. And so, so I say, give God a chance to be an experiencer. And then, all this Bible study, going to the retreat. I think we'll definitely be able to do that's just what I've seen from others. But again, that's up.
Darn. It's starting to break up now.
I'm gonna buy him one of the headsets, dude. Because I think his AirPod is like picking up the audio from like
Yeah, from surroundings.
surroundings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cutting out.
Yeah, your audio gets cut out a lot.
Yeah.
More towards the end, yeah, unfortunately. It started off good.
You at McDonald's?
I'm at McDonald's, yeah.
All right. Well, that was interesting.
And
Thanks for sharing, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We hope you'll continue to join us.
Yeah.
But obviously, no one's forcing you to.
Yeah.
We don't want.
I gotta go pick up my son, but I'll stay online.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't want to put you in a situation where it's like, I don't want to do this. I get why. It's like the analogy me and Mike had earlier. It's just like, what was that analogy you brought up? Cars. The majority of people don't want to break down engines and learn how to fix the cars themselves. But some people do. So there's no like,
This is not the kind of car I want to really work on.
not.
Because, I don't know, because Pastor explained it, he was saying dude, their scales were different back then. Days, times, and whatever, it's all different, right? So it's we kind of need a glossary of all these definitions.
Isaiah's going to say, no, there isn't. A day is a day, an evening is an evening.
Exactly.
Right? And nothing, and here it says, oh, scales were different back then. The pastor just, I don't want to say pull it out of his ass, but, because there's plenty of other people who agrees out there, but
Just like
whatever
how,
they got in is
just
just
like
not
how,
supported by
when,
biblical.
just like how when it's something about a blade and you're oh, a blade references to a blade,
Sword.
it was a sword and something, so it's
Well, he said the translation was a sword.
yeah.
But we
So
looked
it's
at the-
what other it's almost every single word here now we need to translate and see if it's literal or if it's something else that.
And we've done that quite a few times. We've done that quite a few times. It's wait, why this word, why that word? We don't do it for every single word, but ones that
It's
kind
like
of
it's I kind of feel like we need to rewrite all of this in order to read it.
You're free to. And there's people who've been rewriting Bibles for forever, right?
And then there's also, again, I showed you that website, the Bible Gateway. You could have 3 different. You can actually have multiple versions compared right next to each
I
other.
don't think he
something like
wants to.
that. I know, but I mean, if you want to kind of break it down and stuff, you can see which ones align and why some words are different, and then kind of study that word more in terms of the lexicon of it, what it was originally interpreted as. And one of the difficult things also is even throughout history, the English language has changed. Like the word terrible, what would you how would you define terrible? Something bad, right?
Bad, right?
Yeah, but actually in the time of King James, when they wrote terrible, terrible actually meant to be feared, to be reverenced. But now we kind of come to know it as something that's just bad, So I think that's another challenge, and I guess that's what JC was saying about some of these newer versions and stuff. They kind of understand that those words these days don't have the same context as it did in those days and stuff like that. But again, that's why I've been kind of looking through like concordances and these lexicons to kind of get a better understanding of what these original
Can I have
words were.
one?
Yeah, I hope so. Were supposed to mean. All right.
Ruffles. All right. Well,
It just never stops, dude.
you got more chips? Okay.
Dude, there's some taquitos.
Oh, we'll eat that later. Thank you. Okay. Now we can start reading
Chapter 23.
23. that was interesting. You want to go, Mike?
Yeah, I'll go
1
to
to
15.
12? 15? Okay.
I'll go to 12. That makes it easier for me.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Then spake. Oh, so these were after he's talked to the Pharisees. The Pharisees first came up, or the Pharisees first came up with the Herodians, asking a question about the tribute, and then the Sadducees came up asking them about the resurrection, and then
Yeah.
the other
Great commandment.
Pharisee came in. So this is after all speaking, and this is right after he does that mic drop on the questions of Pharisees, right? So he's still speaking with them. So I just want to give you
Thank
guys
you.
context while we go into. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works. For they say and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms and feasts, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the market, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted."
Okay, that's not easy. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples. So now Jesus is talking to Pharisees and his disciples.
Yeah. It's basically everybody who's still there,
Okay, and Jesus says, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
That was like the seed of generally the seed of authority for teaching.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I assume.
Yeah.
All therefore whatsoever they ask you to observe, that observe and do, and do not do after their works, or they say and do not.
So it's like
Can
what
you
was that?
give me a different?
What was that? What was that saying? Preach, but they don't do whatever. What was that? Forgot that.
Practice what you preach.
Yeah, they're not practicing what they preach. The Pharisees aren't. So he's saying, do what they tell you to do out of the books of the law and stuff like that, but don't be like them because they do not practice what they preach.
Who's them?
The Pharisees, yes.
Okay.
Wait, so two, they're just saying that the Pharisees follow Moses, right?
The seat that they're talking about is like the seat of authority for teaching. Like because Moses sat and in his seat he was like giving the law to the people when they first came out of Egypt. So he was like kind of like their preacher. So it's kind of like that seat of
Yeah, so like Moses is teaching kind of.
yeah. Of course, it's not his literal seat, but yeah.
Therefore, whatsoever they say we observe, that observe and do, that do not do afterward. Okay, so he's calling. Jesus is telling his disciples that the Pharisees and Sadducees, the scribes and the Pharisees, are hypocrites because they observe. They ask you, the followers, to observe.
Or to do what they command, yeah.
But they do not after their works, for they say and do not.
Yeah. Basically, they practice what they don't preach.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't practice what they preach.
4. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on man's shoulder, that they themselves will not move them as one of fingers. Okay, so you're saying they put all these rules, restrictions,
Yeah.
and burden on normal people, but
Yeah, kind of like
Not-
the oral laws and stuff like
yeah,
that.
they don't do anything. The rules don't apply to themselves.
Dude, why is born spelled like that? Is that like a different born?
No, it's same kind of like why does like the British spell tire with a Y? Why did they spell neighbor with a B-O-U-R or something like that as opposed to B-O-R that we spell? It's just their spelling sometimes. And born, actually, this one would be like to bear, like to carry.
5. But all the works they do for to be seen of men, they make broad of their
Phylacteries.
phylacteries. What is that word?
So phylacteries were amulets consisting of a strip or parchment inscribed with certain portions of the Pentateuch, usually Exodus 13, which is remembering the Passover, and Deuteronomy 6, which was about keeping God's commandments and remembering to serve the Lord. And these were rolled, and these parchments were rolled and placed in small metal, I have pictures coming up, small metal inside square leather case, and these were attached with a strap to the foreheads and to the back of the hands, following the strict interpretation of Deuteronomy 6:8 and Deuteronomy 11:8. You can read right there, 6:8. And thou
And
shalt
thou
bind
shalt
them.
bind them up for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thy eyes. Deuteronomy 11:18. Therefore shall ye lay upon my words into your heart and your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they may be as frontlets between your eyes. All right, let me see a picture.
They're pretty crazy looking. Let's see, like this guy has got one on his head.
Okay. Can you? Is there any way I can enlarge that a little bit? I don't want to show the crease for folks. Okay. So this, no, I don't think I've seen these before.
Yeah, I guess like the strict like
What?
Jewish. That's a phylactery.
For
That's on the head, and there's gonna be one that's on the
You mean
So
the
who-
GoPro?
It's like one right. But yeah,
What's
like,
inside?
the scrolls. Remember, I said that the scrolls
Ah.
containing all those.
Can I go back and read that Deuteronomy again?
Well, the Deuteronomy, but phylacteries. That's usually what would be
The
inside.
emerald strand of parchment inscribed to a certain portion of the Pentateuch. This roll placed in a small metal cylinder inside a square leather case.
Wait, that's the phylactery?
Yeah. And then let's find some other pictures while we're reading that.
Commandment to the
So you're talking about number 5, right?
Yeah.
What all the works
case or
they
attached to
do
straps
for
the
to be
forehead,
seen of
back,
men.
back of the right hand.
Yeah.
Well, the
What?
phylacteries.
Yeah, I was going to show you another picture. So here's just a drawing of one. See, that's the one on the hand, the one on the forehead.
Okay, so this is supposed to be the right hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's right. But I did see some actual live pictures. I just needed to scroll
Yeah.
through some.
There's
Interesting.
another picture of that.
Yeah. So the phylactery on the hand and on the forehead.
What's the point in that?
Because God says so.
Yeah, God being did in Deuteronomy 6:8 and Deuteronomy 11:18.
You said where are these things?
Yeah, but I think it was mainly for the priests, or like when you come to worship and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, so it's weird because, the Old Testament came from God.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden God came down and he's like, oh, hey, like, go against myself in a sense, right? Or he's like contradicting himself
Oh, so
with old and new. Because didn't old come from him? And now he comes here in person, he's like, Yo, like,
Well,
Again,
okay.
it comes again to the understanding, the man's understanding of it, and
So,
not understanding the whole intent of what God had wanted from it.
so I want to introduce you to this concept called the prophet. And what prophets do, essentially what they do is exactly what you mentioned earlier. They say, you guys got it all wrong. The scriptures you had has been corrupted by men. And this is the new prophet. He's got it right. And that prophet has been come in the shape of Moses, right? Then he comes like, you men corrupted. I'm going to make it right. And Abraham, you guys got it all wrong. I got the right version. Jesus, you guys got it all wrong. I had the right version. Joseph Smith with Mormon, you guys got it all wrong. I got the right version. Muhammad with Islam, you guys got it all wrong. Mine is the final version. Seventh-day Adventist, same thing. So
is this the right one, or is it, like,
Well,
are we
there's-
reading the wrong one right now? Like, what's going on
There's
here?
people
Yeah.
who say this is the right final version. So to Christians, this is the final version. To Mormons, this is the final version plus the Book of Mormon, plus Doctrine and Covenants. Because that's essentially what prophets do. They just come and say, "You guys got it all wrong. I got the right version." And how do you know I have the right version? Well, I have a direct line to God. Either I am holy or I am divinely inspired, and I can get these things on scripture through rocks and plates.
Yeah, and you'll see kind of like, even just with these first 12 verses, like how Jesus was calling them out, because it seemed like, the Pharisees were just kind of like doing all these excessive things for show, so to appear more pious, to appear better than other men, as opposed to actually teaching what God had wanted them to teach. They started elevating themselves as opposed to elevating God for the
I mean,
people.
what were the Pharisees teaching? They're teaching the Old Testament, right?
Yeah, they were, but it seemed from at least this particular chapter that they didn't really, a lot of them didn't really have the true spiritual heart in doing that. They were doing it as to just make a big show of themselves, like, yeah, you got to reverence me because I'm this high priest and stuff like that. And that's what,
But
what
you
we
also,
need, what we need to
Like,
kind of,
how were they doing it?
we'll continue reading and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
well,
This
you
one.
know, you
Because it
gotta,
calls them out big time.
you gotta understand that in their defense, they've been doing their way for probably hundreds of thousands of years. So as soon as this new guy comes and says, "You guys got it all wrong," of course people are gonna be like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah, and you can also kind of, maybe think about like, that child game we used to play, telephone, you go around in a circle, you whisper to the first person. That first person will probably have the closest, rendition of the story. So imagine like throughout all of these descendants from Moses until now and stuff like that, imagine how much it could have gotten distorted all the way down to where Jesus is at.
But isn't it all taught through the Bible, which should be pretty much etched in stone? So it's like, how does it change?
So yeah, there was that, but there was also what they considered oral law, which was supposedly passed down through Moses by word of mouth, not written, and those seem to overstep, as we kind of saw in previous chapters, what Jesus was calling out, that those seem to overstep the actual true intent of the written law.
So, okay, my question is,
Oh,
stop smiling. Is JC still there?
He probably is, but he's driving.
Okay, let's see if he's still.
He's driving.
Okay. So my question is, why would an all-knowing, all-powerful God allow there to be so many different mistakes, right? Because like Mike said, okay, there was start of oral law, maybe men remember things wrong, passed it down incorrectly, or perhaps scribes made a mistake and copied one of the papyries. It's like there's so many different versions. So if I was a god, I'm not, but if I was God and I had all the powers, right? And then I look down on earth and I see all these people fighting, bickering, getting my message wrong. It's like I love my kids, I love my creations, and I want them to do right. I want them to come close to me. I want them to follow my rules. But because they're so dumb and they have horrible memories and they keep making mistakes, therefore they messed up all of my messages. They messed up half of my commandments, and nobody can agree.
Well, I mean,
Why?
So it's like, why would I allow that if
Why?
I am all powerful?
Because he wants color in the world.
well, I mean, he did send like a lot of his prophets out to correct the people.
Well, apparently these prophets not done a good enough job because we're still having this conversation.
Yeah, but then
today.
that's because of man not wanting to accept what is what truly is what God wants. We want to kind of
Well,
align what we think what we want to what we think he wants, and that seems to be the case. And then you'll see like in the Old Testament when we read, there's like a lot of like judgment from God when he allowed for the the Babylonian exiles and stuff like that. And who knows, like when his judgment comes, it's gonna come. It's just maybe not now.
yeah. So when judgment day comes, he's gonna come to say to all the people that got it wrong, it's like, you guys messed up, so now you're gonna be punished, whether it's eternal hell or damnation, right? And I wonder how many people who's actually gonna get it right. Because I don't know anybody who has it right. Everyone thinks they have the right version, but they all contradict each other. So there's no way everyone can be right.
I don't know. I just think it just comes down to like everybody's heart.
Yeah, but
Like
again,
even if like I think
from
even though like on the outside like you're like, dude, I'm atheist, I have these questions, like the way you carry yourself, it's like at the end, God will ultimately just judge your
so
heart.
why
based on your
create
heart.
all these rules, all these things that, as a God, that I want my people, my creation to follow, and if they don't follow it, and it's just like, okay, when judgment day comes, let me examine your heart. Okay, if that's the only litmus as far as whether you've done right or wrong, then why create all these rules to begin with?
Just to kind of
Because obviously your heart, your intention, your faithfulness matters, right?
Yeah.
If that stuff, but that's not the only stuff that matters, is it?
because this is how you kind of get to know it.
Yeah, and well, this is very confusing. There's hundreds of different versions and a few thousands different denominations. They all think they got it right. So why would, and they all believe in the same God. It's not like they believe in different God. They all believe in the same God. So why would a freaking all-powerful, all-knowing God just like, I'll let thousands of you sort it out. And if you're going to create new versions of my Bible, go ahead. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
If
'cause
others are just like, no, there's only one version. So in that way, I'm kind of in agreement with Isaiah because he just believed there's one version and that's it. So there's no argument, no dispute, and everybody else, you guys got it wrong. So that's according to him. So in that way, it's like,
Because I kind of feel like even
It makes
people
more
who
sense.
did get it wrong, if their heart is pure and their heart is where it's supposed to be, I believe that you're still saved whether you're not sure
Well,
or don't know it.
are
or
you
whatever.
really safe just because you
I
have a
don't
pure
know.
heart? That's what reading the Bible tells you. It's like, well,
That's kind of like how that's my interpretation. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
So that's why I'm kind of like, dude, like, you interpret it your way, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and like, it's like a personal thing. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
want to argue about it.
Well,
And if, to stop arguing, then if that means not talk about it, hey, I'm down with that too.
alright.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, JC, if you whenever you're ready, if you feel like it, feel free to chime in. Why would an all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient deity allow there to be so many different versions and so many reformations? Because you would think if he's all-knowing, all-powerful, one time should be enough to get it done.
I don't know if he allowed it. So let's just say, because you all have free will to do whatever. People are just doing this, like making up their own things.
Well,
right?
then why send a prophet down to reform? Like if they got the message and they messed it up subsequently, just let it be. Why send one prophet, two prophets, three prophets to and every single prophet always say, you guys got it wrong.
Did he send them?
Hmm?
Did he send them?
Yeah,
Who?
Jesus is one of them.
Well, according to this, Jesus is God.
Yeah, and he's also
He
Yeah,
is the
but
correct
Isaiah,
prophet.
Jeremiah,
So he's
Ezekiel,
other people.
Daniel,
right. How many
The
times do you have to do it?
Elijah. There's a lot, but yeah, I mean,
Like according to this, like who's the Mormon prophet?
Joseph Smith.
Is he part of this? Is he a real prophet or not?
If you ask Mormons, yes, he's the last
Yeah,
prophet.
but according to this, is he a real prophet or not?
No, because this came before Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
But Joseph Smith,
So
Mormons,
he's not really a prophet.
LDS,
right?
huh?
So he's not really a prophet.
He's not an Old Testament prophet. Just like,
Well, according to this, he's not a prophet at all, right? Or is he a prophet?
I don't know.
well,
What do you mean? I don't know.
they don't make any mention of Joseph Smith here. If they did, I'll be very impressed.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, but I mean, he could be a false prophet as well.
Yeah, according to this, isn't he a false prophet?
No,
Because he's nowhere listed in the Bible.
He
Sure.
will talk about, like, you know, he will send prophets, I think 2024, something like that. Oh, no, 37. Verse 37, you know, I will.
He'll send prophets. So are we
No,
supposed?
34. I mean, but we don't necessarily know unless, you know, we have that word from God that, you know, this is my man.
so to Christians, Jesus is last prophet. To the Muslims, Muhammad is the
Not
last
necessarily.
prophet. Oh, really? Can there be another prophet after Jesus?
Yeah.
Really?
This might not be in the same sense that you might think, where like he's all knowing, all blah blah blah. But
Okay.
there's different levels of like prophecy and stuff like that.
Maybe. Can I be a prophet?
So if you were one, you
He's
would
not
know.
asking.
If you were one, you would know it.
Whoa, really? Where are we getting all these rules from?
Because you would start spitting fire. I'm just playing.
That's true. Yeah, I am nowhere near level of Jesus. His knowledge, his memory, his articulation, very impressive. All right, well, let's get back to it. Okay, we're
So
on
these
5.
dudes are wearing things and just kind of like showing off, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that what they were supposed to do? But I guess like the bottom line is their intentions
Right, Jesus
were
is saying like you're
Yeah.
just doing it.
They were
For parents.
broadening, they were making it larger, they were making it a lot more conspicuous, you know, as to get attention, as to show that, you know. Like,
So is there
so
competition
bottom
who
so
has
bottom
the
line
biggest
all like I kind of feel
GoPro?
like bottom line is their hearts weren't in the right place.
exactly.
That's what Jesus thinks. He's always just accusing people.
Like people's hearts are not in the right place.
6. And the love of the uppermost room at feast and the chief seats in the synagogue.
Yeah, so they just wanted to be in the best rooms at feasts and, you know,
Oh.
the best seats in synagogues.
Okay. 7. And the greetings of the market and to be called man, rabbi. This is a hey, rabbi.
Yeah, like kind of like, you know, like
It's a
like another, like, you know, you're my teacher, you're my, you know, kind of giving that.
so they just Jesus accusing of being they.
Pretty much.
And 8. But be not ye called rabbi, for one of your master, even Christ, and all ye are brothers. Huh?
So,
Be not.
but don't call yourself rabbi because there's only one. Rabbi means teacher, master teacher, right?
Okay.
But don't call yourself teacher or master because there's only one master teacher, and that's Christ. And call no man your father upon the earth, for
And all ye are brethren.
and all ye are, because all you guys are equally the same as brothers,
Oh.
with one true teacher.
So he just like, oh, you guys
Guys are-
haven't earned yourself that title. You know, you shouldn't call yourself rabbi.
No one
because-
will, you know, because there's
Yeah.
only if there's
Because
only
only
one
one.
master.
And that's me.
That's God.
Okay, 8. 9. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven.
Yeah. So again, this is the spiritual part. Like, you know, he's trying to, you know, tell even with 10. So 9, 8, 9, 10, kind of like all the same
I
thing.
don't know if Isaiah calls his father.
Right.
Yeah, because if it literally is just like, wait, well, don't do it.
Yeah.
There's only one Father.
Now I can kind of understand, like, you know, like in the Catholic Church, when, you know, like, Father, forgive me, I sinned, because you're using that as like a spiritual father, and that I can kind of understand. Might not be a good thing because, again, there's only one true spiritual father.
Okay, neither you or Christ or one of you. 10. Neither of ye be called masters, for one is your masters, even Christ. Huh?
So, yeah. So actually, the master in verse 8, yeah, that was supposed to be literally translated like leader or teacher, and the master in 10, we can look up the lexicon if we really want to, is basically like leader or master, yeah. So the other one is like probably more leaning towards, what do you call it?
Educator.
Yeah, educator,
Teacher.
teacher, and this one's more of like, you know,
Someone above you.
yeah,
You're your boss.
yeah.
There you kill less for you. Okay. 11. For he is the greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased and is kicked out.
Yeah, you make it humble.
Yeah, and he shall be humble, shall be exalted. Okay, so this part we read just
That was what
he's
Matthew
saying,
20,
accusing people,
4:28.
don't be vain and be humble. And you guys are all pieces of shit except for me.
Well, he's just saying, like, you know, people that think they're better, I guess, like, we're all the same, right?
Yeah, I guess another way you can interpret it is like you guys are all sinners,
Yeah, okay.
equally sinners, right? And I think you'll like that better. Anticipation, I'm just gonna see here we go. How
Like,
many of
nobody's a leader in a sense. There's only one leader.
Yeah.
See, with 9, I get that. You know, in the context of it, it's like, okay, it's spiritual, but you know, if you're a literalist, then yeah, you're not supposed to. How about mother? I guess that doesn't, he doesn't care about mom as much, huh?
It's so funny, like every time when I read these, you know what I look for? I look for people that pick and choose, you know? And like right here it'd be like
Well,
Matthew chapter 13, verse 9, and call no man your father upon earth. You know what I mean? It's like,
You gotta understand
it's like what?
And even like I said, like, you know, the context, even if it's
Those
just,
things
like,
keep
within,
popping
like,
out
this
at me.
passage.
Those things keep popping out at me all the time.
That's-
So like one of my things
do
is
to
when
me
people
too.
start referencing stuff, I low key want to just like shut up, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Stop referencing stuff. But like I kind of feel like there's like a
well, let me
a
ask you
hidden
this.
agenda behind it. Like you took the time to memorize all this stuff, to reference it, to use it for your personal gain and like whatever, twist things around, manipulate people. And that's what I'm kind of like, it goes all back to like, I don't know if I really need to, like, you know what I mean?
Let me ask you this then.
I hate this weird feeling that it gives me when
Let me ask you
people
this.
start doing all this stuff, you know?
So, if you never done this
Mm-hmm.
Bible study with us,
Yeah.
and someone comes to you and it's like, hey, Bible says this, Matthew chapter this, verse that, you like, and you never read the Bible, right?
Mhm.
You like, oh shit, it's from the Bible, it must be true, because he's quoting from authority, right? But now you read it, you're like, bitch, I want to slap you, right?
And that's
So I would say you benefited personally from.
No, I mean, like the way I used to approach it is just like, oh, it says that. That's what you think about it. That's interesting. I'll ponder upon that for a bit. You know, and then Mike might tell me the same verse, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. That's what you feel, and that's interesting. I like to hear what people's thoughts are, but I don't really take it and accept it and like, oh, that's what it is. You know, I just like to hear people's banter on what they've read and their thoughts and like, you know, about their experience with the Bible. You know what I mean? But being told like, oh yeah, like you got to do this and like, you know, it's like.
But now you know, it's like when people start quoting it, right? Yeah, it's.
Yeah, and like, you know, people that do quote it, I'm just kind of like, that's interesting, you know, and like like I said, it's like that's interesting that someone took the time to remember it. It's impressive that they memorized it. It's impressive that they know exactly where it's at. And it's like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, to me, it's
Yeah.
it doesn't really.
I would only be impressed if
Doesn't
they
really
use it
do
in the right context too. You know what I mean? Because you know, there's
It's not hard to memorize maybe 5 to a dozen chapter and verses, but if someone who's like can do more than that, that's impressive. Okay, let's continue. 13, the hypocrisy of the scribes and the Pharisees. It's a long one. But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut out the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go into yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye devour widows' house for pretense, make long prayers. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, ye make him twofold more the child of hell than yourself. Woe unto you, ye blind guides, which say, whosoever swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whosoever swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Ye fools and blind, for whether the greater the gold, the temple sanctifieth the gold, and whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing, but whosoever swear by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty. Ye fools and blind, for whether it is greater the gift, or the altar that sanctifieth the gift, whosoever there shall forswear by the altar sweareth by it, and by all things thereon. And whosoever sweareth by the temple sweareth by it, and by him that dwelleth therein. And he that shall swear by heaven sweareth by the throne of God, and by him that sitteth thereon. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye pay tithe of mint and anise of cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. Of these ought ye have done, and not to leave the others undone. Ye blind guides, which shall strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye may clean the outside of cup of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisees, cleanse first that is which is upon the cup of the platter, and the outside of them may be clean also. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto the white sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but within full of dead men's bones, and of all the uncleanness. Even so ye shall outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and inequity. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! Because ye build the tomb of the prophets, and garnish the sepulchres with the righteous, and say, if we had been in those days of our father, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witness unto yourselves, and ye are the children of them which kill the prophets. Fill ye up with the measures of your father, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? Ooh-wee. No wonder they want to kill this mom. He's spitting fire.
yeah, he was dropping bombs.
I wonder if he get his ass kicked. He's gonna chase him out. Alright. 13. Woe to you, scribes here. For ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, and ye neither go in yourself, neither suffer them that are entering to go in. Huh?
I think he's saying like, dude, you guys ain't going in and stop like messing with all these other people's faiths and like not letting them in either with you.
Yeah.
Like
Basically following Jesus into that kingdom. Yeah.
Well, what's he saying? 13.
Jason kind of got it.
Oh, so
he's saying like, dude, you Pharisees are messed up, and you guys are leading a whole bunch of people along with you
Okay.
in this road of wrong.
Yeah, you're not ready to come to me. That's what he's specifically saying.
It's like you guys are bad, and you guys are just basically gathering and leading other people down the same path.
Okay, 14. For ye devour widow's house, and for pretense to make long prayer, therefore ye shall receive. What's he saying, 14?
So those,
I have an idea, but
yeah, like
you
I
know,
guess
I'm
like
not sure if that's what it's.
yeah, that's probably
Okay.
right.
The scribes, many scribes of the day were dependent on the generosity and vigils for their livelihoods. Some apparently abused the hospitality they were shown, brought their hopeless donors to the brink of financial ruin, defrauding helpless widows of their homes and their limited resources. Others flaunted their religion for the sake of impressing others with their spirituality, perhaps therefore obtaining more support. Okay.
I think it's just like taking from like people that can't even
Where'd you
afford.
get this?
I think this might be for this one.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause, you know, he doesn't specify what they do inside these people's houses.
And then there's also this is from Mark. It's basically the same thing, and there's a little bit more. I don't really want to. If you want to read all that, yeah, I guess you could start for yeah. This is kind of I think that's why I don't want to.
Instead of using Torah to earn a salary, the scribes encourage them to believe that the people will be blessed by God if they support the scribes financially and practically. The rich man can afford to be generous, but the widows are often more tender-hearted than financially astute. Can we see what Mark says? Scroll up. Okay, let's read King James.
Yeah, which devour houses and work pretense, make long prayers.
Okay.
Basically the same. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
gonna give a little.
15. For you compass sea and land to make one proselyte.
Proselyte is a person who has converted from one opinion, religion, or party to another. So basically,
they go out and proselytize.
they go out and go wherever they can, search out land,
And when
sea.
he has made you make him twofold more the child of hell. Okay, so he just say when you guys go out proselyte, you're doing more damage than good.
Yeah, when you bring convert and you're just bringing
God.
into your crap.
He is offensive.
He is getting, yeah, this is, what was it, like 70
Can you imagine
videos?
being on the receiving end of this message? This is one guy, right? 16. Whosoever shall swear by a temple is nothing. It is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is dead. Huh?
So, I guess this is a very,
Let me see the Greek. Ophelio, that's a debtor.
yeah,
Enokos.
he's guilty. That's on the next verse. So basically, like what they're saying is like, whoever swears by the temple is nothing but, you know, whoever swears by the gold that's on the temple, then he is obligated to, you know, he's under obligation to fulfill or keep that oath.
Still doesn't. That's not like.
So there's
It
two
still doesn't
swearing,
make
right? There's
sense.
one that swears by the temple, and then there's
Yeah.
one that swears by the gold of the temple.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Okay, so under the ancient understanding, the responsibility of an oath was directly related to the power of sacredness of the object or person by which the oath was taken. During this period, the Israelites were not allowed to swear oaths on God himself or even to speak the name of God directly. Instead, they would swear oaths by objects closely connected to God in some way, such as his throne or the temple or the altar.
Or the wall.
Using the traditional scheme of loopholes and technicalities, these religious leaders have declared that by swearing by the gold of the temple or swearing by the sacrifice on an altar requires a person to keep their word.
Okay.
In contrast, they say swearing by the temple or altar themselves is somehow non-binding. Jesus had pointed out that it is the temple that makes the gold sacred, and it is the altar that makes the sacrifice sacred. The scribes and Pharisees of all people should understand that all these things come from God and belong to God. These supposedly learned men do not have any basis to declare one sacred and another not. Swearing by the temple of God amounts to the same as swearing by God himself, since he lives in the temple. The Pharisees had declared that swearing by the temple was meaningless.
You did?
Yeah, I mean that's what they're saying right there. It's like, you know, you guys say that whoever swears by the temple is nothing. You're not
What do you
obligated to
mean?
that oath.
Why would they say that?
I guess that's what
Is
they
there,
said, but
is there like Old Testament justification for that, please?
I haven't come across it.
What do you mean swearing by the temple?
Like, you know, swear an oath.
I swear I will not do this. I swear I'll be good if you give me that.
Whosoever shall swear by the temple,
Means
it is nothing.
meaning that oath is not binding.
Whoever shall swear by the
But
temple.
whoever swears on the gold of that temple, then that oath becomes binding. That's what
Does
Jesus
this
is
say?
accusing them of.
Oh. So what's Jesus saying here?
The gold by the gold of the temple. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor.
So he's saying.
So is that a bad thing or a good thing?
I don't know.
That's a bad thing, right?
Yeah, because what he's saying is like, what sanctifies the gold of the temple? The temple should be more important than the gold, regardless. But they were swearing, if they would have sworn on the temple, it meant
Like
nothing.
gold as in the money.
Oh,
right?
okay.
The gold that was plated on the temple.
Okay, so Pharisee says, swear by gold, not the temple. And Jesus saying, swear by the temple, not the gold? Is that right?
Kinda, for now.
Okay.
We'll get to why.
Swear by the gold of the temple.
Here, let me see.
Okay, I'm continuing.
So, like, all right, let's put it in layman terms.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now for you. For you say that it means nothing to swear by God's temple, but that it's binding to swear by the gold in the temple.
That's not layman terms, bro.
No?
So, dude, no. So,
Pharisees are telling people, swear by the gold, not the temple.
the temple. So basically, the temple's a church, right?
Yes.
So whoever like claims an oath or swears an oath to the church is nothing.
No, I guess there's gold on the outside or inside.
But yeah, but let's get the first part right?
Yeah.
So he's just saying whoever swears an oath to the church is nothing. Whosoever, you guys are blind guides, and then whoever swears an oath to
No.
the church is
Look.
nothing. Right?
You guys are blind guides. And you guys say,
Which say,
you
oh,
Pharisees
so
say,
he's saying
yeah, you Pharisees are saying whoever,
whoever swears,
so that whoever should be kind of in quotation marks.
whoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whoever shall swear by the gold of the temple is a debt. Okay. So he's saying the Pharisees are saying this.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so what's the
It's
second part now?
Okay, let's read it.
Whosoever
17,
shall
right?
swear by the gold.
For whether is greater the gold or the temple that sanctified the gold. Okay, so which one is more important? The gold inside the temple or the temple itself?
Or the temple that makes the gold sacred.
Yeah. 18. Whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever swears by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty. Huh?
So whoever shall swear by the altar, that oath is non-binding. But whosoever swears by the gift, the sacrifice on the altar, then that oath is binding.
Why do you say he is guilty?
So
Is that a bad translation?
it's
Okay.
that's why I went to. That's what you're looking at before. Guilty,
Okay.
subject to, liable to.
Okay, so bad translation from our modern English perspective. Because if you read it, it's just guilty, it's just oh,
Yeah.
that's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But it turns out it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So he's saying that swear by the gift that is on the altar is a good thing. Swearing on the altar is a bad thing. 19. For whether is greater the gift or oath, etc. 20. Whosoever shall swear by the altar, swear by it, and by all things therein.
They're on.
What? So what's he saying, 20?
It says, whoever shall swear by the altar swears by the and everything that's on the altar. So it doesn't
including the gift.
include the sacrifice. Yeah. 'cause
So
that-
well, why is he poo-pooing on swearing on the altar? Just
Wait, so is this still Jesus accusing
Mhm.
yeah.
the Pharisees
Yeah.
of believing all of this or saying all of this?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not saying that they are doing it. He's
What?
just. This all goes back to which say, right?
Mhm.
I'm confused.
And what?
So let's look at 18 and 20, right? Let's look at 20 first. He says, whoever swear by the altar and swear by it, nothing's in it. So
Yeah,
in
because
20, he's saying swearing on the altar is okay, but in 18, he's saying swearing on the altar is nothing.
no, because whosoever shall say, because basically he's saying,
Oh.
you Pharisees are saying that if you swear on the altar,
Uh-huh.
it means nothing, but if you
Oh.
swear on the gift of the altar, yeah. So again, it's that whosoever.
This is. I think we need to determine what Jesus is actually saying on
And
his
what-
own behalf
yeah.
and what he's saying that
That
the Pharisees are saying.
Yes.
So I think we need to like determine,
Yeah.
like, dude, what's going on right here?
So he's like basically kind of like continuing his questions. He's like, you know,
He's kind of, it's a routine of like, you guys are saying this, but now I'm saying this. You guys are saying
Yeah.
this,
yeah,
I'm saying this.
So we need to figure out.
So we have to figure out.
It's like we need to color code this section or something.
Okay, where were we at?
20.
21. And whosoever shall swear by the temple by it and by him that dwell. Okay, so it's
So
Pharisees or is this?
no, so for 20 and 20 to 22 is what Jesus is kind of like saying. This is what's supposed to be done.
Okay, so Jesus now says, whoever shall swear by the altar and swear by it and everything that is on it. And whoever swear by the temple and swear by it and by him that dwells therein.
God.
Okay.
So whoever swears on the temple swears on the temple itself, and by the person who resides in there, which is God.
This is interesting. Jesus is Jesus is placing sanctity on temples. Isn't that a little bit contradictory to what we read a while back, which is saying the temple is within?
It's both. Because there's always like, you know, like the open, kind of like the gathering place for people, but you also have your temple within as well.
But right now he's making the building itself sacred.
Well, so the thing is especially back from the Old Testament, when they built the temple, the Jerusalem temple and stuff, that was supposed to be, you know, David wanted to build, King David,
Right.
you know, and this was supposed to be the house for God, because before they were just, they just had tabernacles.
I will almost expect Jesus to say at this point, like, you guys place all these sacred things in your temple, but no, you got it all wrong. It should be from your heart. That's a little more consistent with Jesus' message from what we read so far.
Kind of, but the thing is, like, this was already kind of established since the Old Testament days.
You don't give
No, I'm just saying, like, all that stuff that was there, like, that, again, that the temple was meant for God to dwell in, because, you know, before when they were, you know, in the wilderness coming for 40 years, they only had a tabernacle or a tent for God in that regard. So King David wanted to make a permanent dwelling for God, but God didn't want David to do it, and he allowed his son Solomon to do it. And that's when the Jerusalem temple was built.
Well, yeah,
And
thanks.
it was ransacked and destroyed when they were exiled.
Thank you for the background, but I just think this is a little out of character for Jesus.
Let's go weird interpretation style. So like, are you sure it's like the physical temple, or is he talking about our body
I'm talking about
temples?
physical temple right now.
It
Like
sounds
gold?
like it,
Is he
yeah.
talking about actual gold, or is he talking about like the gift of the Holy Spirit? So it's like, is the altar? Is he actually talking about an altar? Or is he talking about like our mind? Is he talking about this, or is he all talking about that? You know what I mean? It's like, bro.
In this context,
come
I think he's
on,
talking
man.
about the physical structure, right? Because he's being pretty descriptive about the temple, the gold inside, the altar.
The heart.
All right. Yeah, I'm just a little surprised right now that he's putting so much sanctity on the physical building, because I thought he's not about that. But we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, the thing is, like, you know, they were reverencing the gold of the temple, and what should be better than the gold of the temple? The temple itself.
Or what's in here?
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, what they were actually doing,
Mhm.
what the Pharisees were doing, were swearing on that physical temple. So that's why he's referring to that at the moment.
Yeah.
The Pharisees weren't swearing on themselves because at that time they didn't believe that the temple was them. That's what Jesus had brought. So right now they're talking about the physical temple.
Is this why Jews are like touching the wailing wall?
Possibly.
So when Jesus is doing this, he has all 12 disciples. Wait, at this time it's 12, right?
Yeah.
He has all 12 disciples, just like his crew with them all the time, like listening to him.
I think
And
so.
probably some other followers too, you know, who just want to hear him speak.
There's a-
Especially since they're in Jerusalem right now for the Passover feast. So there's probably a lot of people and they're like seeing like this commotion going on. So I think that's why they say multitudes at verse 1.
Yeah, multitude. So there's dozens, if not hundreds, supposedly.
So he's out here creating a scene, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's picking on like the church leaders and just telling them, you guys are just bollocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Embarrassing them in front of all these peoples.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 22. And he, whoever shall swear by heaven, swear by the throne of God, and by him that sit there on land.
So he that swears by heaven
Mm-hmm.
sweareth by the throne of God and the person that sits on that throne, which is God.
Is there a throne inside these temples?
No, he's
No,
talking
it's
about
a-
heaven right now.
Yeah, metaphorical. Okay, so you can swear by the altar, you can swear by the temple, you can swear by the gold, and you can swear by the throne. That's a lot of things to swear on.
What do you mean, like swear? Like
Swear.
how does he swear? Oh,
Yeah.
So I kind of say, I'll swear to you, I'll never steal anything.
like an allegiance.
Or anything, you know, like I swear on this Ruffles bag that I will pick up the trash tomorrow. Oh, this is nothing, so my oath is binding, you know. But if I swear on the Bible, that kind of makes it a little bit more binding. You know what I mean?
23.
It's like all you guys that put it on all this stuff.
When you pay
Yeah,
by
it's like,
the
yeah,
rent,
that's what you say, right?
interest,
You know,
and
put that on
common.
something.
When I was reading this, I wanted to pronounce the Cummins.
We pronounce the niece wrong.
Anus and Cummins. For you guys pay the mint of anus and Cummins,
The tithe of it.
and have omitted the weightier matter of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you have done, and not to leave the others in debt. Okay.
Does that make sense? Or no?
I get the point, but I don't understand the language, so I still want to read it. So you guys pay tithe, which is tax, church tax,
Mhm.
of mint, anise, anise. How do you pronounce it?
Niece.
Anise.
It's like dill.
Yeah, it's like a five. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then cumins.
Yeah.
And you forgot what's more important, which is judgment, mercy, and faith.
Mhm.
Those you have not.
These ought ye to have done. The
The-
matters of judgment, mercy, and faith, and not leave the other undone. Still, you know.
So what's he saying? He's like, you.
So the mint
The-
and anise and cumins were like kind of like the smallest, like tiniest of the herbs in the garden and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it seems like the Pharisees were caring more about these smaller ritual things in great detail, yet they weren't really as concerned with judgment or justice, mercy,
Right.
and what do you call it, faith.
Yeah.
They weren't really teaching so much about that, you know, or at least keeping those particular three matters of the law. They were, but for tithing, it's the smallest, you know, or plant that you had in your garden.
So-
They were doing everything to a T.
Okay. So what is it? These ought ye have to have done and not to leave the other empty.
So you should have, concentrated on matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith, and still not leave, and still
Okay.
do the tithing.
Okay.
But you got your priorities wrong.
24. You blind glides, which string at a gnat and swallow a camel.
So,
What?
okay, so gnat and camel were both
Gnat's a little
unclean animals. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, same.
Camels and clean.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
it's
basically
a-
those things were both unclean.
Mhm.
So what they would do is a lot of times the Pharisees they would
Well, what is
put
it
some
mean?
type of screen on their drinks
Uh,
to strain to make sure no gnats and stuff, so they wouldn't ingest anything unclean. Yet he's just calling them out. It's like, dude, you
you got? Do they eat camels?
no, but he was just kind of
But
using it as like hyperbole.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's kind of like the beam and the speck.
Yeah. So you guys worry about keeping a little small gnat out of your drinks, but you'll freaking swallow, open your mouth, and eat an entire camel.
It's like you're nitpicking at these small things,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're just like
the important
these
ones.
huge things. There's
Yeah.
just like, dude, you're just you're
Exactly.
swallowing camel. Metaphor of just like, dude, there's a lot bigger things to nitpick at.
Mhm.
Okay. 25. For you may clean outside the cup of and of the platter, but within are full of extortion and excess.
I wish they would use instead of platter, because a platter is like basically a dish. I wish
I'm
they would
thinking
use
of
like a
fish.
bowl,
Okay.
because like that makes more sense. Because with a platter, you can still see the inside of it, But I guess what he's basically saying is like like a cup or like a bowl and stuff like that. Let's say this wasn't see through.
Right.
They only clean the outside, but the inside's still all dirty.
Extortion?
It's just kind of
Extortion and excess. Though that's an interesting choice of word.
yeah.
And I get it. It's like, okay, the outside's all clean, the inside's all nasty.
Yeah.
You didn't, clean,
yeah.
you didn't clean the inside of your bowl and your plates.
And then, according to kind of what we read about, like, devouring, what do you call it, the widows' houses and stuff like that, that extortion could kind of play along the lines of that, you know what I mean?
How fast can we look up the Greek version?
Very fast. What is this?
25.
I mean, bottom line is he's just talking more shit.
Yeah.
Oh, this is all shit talking.
Yeah, he's just saying like, dude, you're clean on the outside and dirty on the inside, right? You look clean, but you're dirty.
Extortion and excess.
Ravening, spoiling. I think it's like the version. Let's see. The act of plundering, robbery, plunder, steal. So yeah, that kind of makes me think about that widow devouring widows' houses and stuff like that.
Okay, so he's not saying inside's dirty. He's just saying inside's full.
Yeah,
The
you're dirty. You got a dirty
figurative,
soul. Yeah,
figurative shit,
yeah.
right? Full of extortion, which is plundering, robbery, and excess. Or not, some excess.
Yeah.
Right. 26.
Self-indulgence.
Cleanse first that which is within the cup and the platter, and the outside may be clean also. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
27. For you are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, or within full of dead men's bones.
So what they used to do with the, like when you think of sepulchre, we could also think of like kind of like how the tomb of Jesus,
Right.
where they had the stone in front.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like like the door and stuff. So they would paint that white to mark out to people coming by, like this is
Really?
yeah. So that way, because coming in contact with a dead person, dead body is unclean.
Unclean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this was a way to warn them. And a lot of times they would also beautify that thing, just to make it look nice and stuff like that. So that's where it kind of goes with like you look all nice, pretty outside, but inside you're just full of all uncleanness.
Okay, 28. Even so ye shall outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and inequity.
Iniquity.
Inequity.
It's just
29. Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tomb of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we have been in the day, and this is them talking, not Jesus talking.
Yeah.
And if we have been in the days of our father, we would not have been partaker with them in the blood of the prophets.
Now Jesus is the same.
Wherefore you be witness unto your own selves, and that your children,
That
you are the children of them which kill the prophets. Wherefore ye be witness. What's that sentence like? Wherefore ye be witness unto yourself.
So you testify against yourself. You guys are actually the children of these evil men. You say that, you know, you
Get over
don't
here.
partake, but you're just like your father. Look what you have done to John the Baptist.
32. Fill ye out the measures of your father. Fill ye out the measures.
Just go ahead and finish what your father started.
You serpents, generation of vipers, how can you?
Yeah, he said he puts them on blast.
I'm surprised he survived as long as he did. They should have killed him.
Well, we got 4 more chapters left, so
Yeah, I'm surprised they kept him alive for another verse. All right, Jason, you good? What are you palming over?
Oh, nothing. Just reading. He's just, I don't know.
What's on your mind, man?
Nothing. He's just talking a bunch of smack. That's all.
Yeah.
When I first went through all this stuff, I was thinking a lot about politics and stuff, and I was just kind of, instead of the Pharisees, I was thinking about our politicians, our governors, and all this stuff that are just doing all this crap against us and stuff, and just living righteously on their own.
Go on.
That's it
That's it.
for now. Yeah, let's
Okay.
finish this.
All right. Take us
I
home.
don't know. It's always like I always kind of feel like there's like a flip side, you know.
Of course.
It's like you're on the side that feels like that, and then there's another side that doesn't
Yeah.
feel like that.
I try to put myself inside
But
my.
you know, but when you think about
Pharisees
it,
and Sadducees.
yeah. But when you think about it, who is actually right?
Both of us and none of us.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm just kind of like, dude, with me, I don't really want to be a part of anything, dude. Like, I kind of feel like it's all stupid. You know what I mean? I feel like both is stupid. Well, I
JC?
mean, when we get into politics.
Yeah, I mean that's why I've been trying to.
You want to
say,
take us home? 34 to 39.
Sure.
Yeah. And put some pizzazz into it.
He's
See,
He's
Oh, you're at home now?
yeah,
Nice.
now we can actually hear.
He could. So let me set the scene for you, right? Jesus out there, pointing fingers and getting angry, and then there's a Pharisee Sadducee. So he's worked up. He's got a lot of emotions. Go.
I kind of see him different. I kind of see him like just,
Oh. You see him as mellow? Really?
yeah, I see him as kind of,
Is he
not-
just
not
kind of like
mellow.
calmly, like talking? But because I see him, he's just like
You know,
he's getting worked up.
it's
He's about to
funny.
like turn to the cornholio with you. He's like.
It's funny because when I read, I don't see him as getting crazy like that. But with you start adding that fire to him, and I'm just like, oh, is he getting crazy? But when I
I
read this
think
like
he's starting to get
on my
crazy.
own, like I feel he doesn't really lose his temper, and I don't feel like Jesus really has that.
No,
temper.
I think in my mind, he
Yeah.
did. He's like, first he's starting off slow, just like
He's
woe
like
unto
going
you.
ham
And then
on
he's
him,
just- and then he's like getting excited. He's like, you blind, you hypocrites, woe unto you. And it's just repeated, like, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. And he just says that over and over again, right? And
It
he yells
seems,
like,
it seems to be at the hypocrites because you can see that there's an exclamation mark after that.
Right. Well, at least in our version, right? And then he's like, 32, fill your measures up with your father. Meaning it's like, why don't you just do what you're gonna do? Like, you're a piece of shit already. Your forefathers were persecutors of the prophets. You might as well be persecutor fathers. You serpents, you generation of vipers. How can you escape the damnation of hell? And you're gonna tell me he's like there delivering this message calmly? We don't know. We don't
I
know.
think he's stern.
I think he's pretty pissed off, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I could kind of imitate that kind of.
Okay, you know what? Let's
hear your version.
version. Okay. Maybe the peaceful, loving, like kumbaya Jesus.
So wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them ye shall scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So there's kind of this like sternness, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know I agree, he's pretty this one. Yeah. I just don't know if I could copy it.
All right. Okay. Jesus prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem. Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets. Behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes. And some of them you shall kill and crucify. Some of them you shall scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city. Okay, so who has he sent besides maybe John the Baptist?
No, this is kind of talking about in the future.
Oh, okay.
I send unto you. I will,
Okay.
and you'll kind of see, or if you remember story about Paul.
Yeah.
Like he went from Jerusalem, followed them all the way to Damascus,
Right.
to kind of persecute them. But along the way, that's when Jesus.
Lightning or something?
Yeah.
So he's talking about the future.
Yeah.
35. That upon you may have called all the righteous blood shed from earth, and from the blood of righteous Abel into the blood of Zacharias son of Barachias, whom you slew between the temple and the altar. Okay, who was? I heard of Abel.
Cain and Abel.
Yeah. Zacharias son
was,
of Barachias.
Yeah, he was one of the priests back in like the days of the kings, and the story of this was actually in like Second Chronicles, something I forgot. But I guess like the Hebrew Bible back then, it ended at Second Chronicles, whereas ours kind of ends at the prophets and stuff like that, So I guess like what he was trying to mention was that that the whole martyrdom from the beginning to the end of the Hebrew Bible is what he's trying to encapsulate in this particular passage or verse. But yeah, for 34, he gets out, he's talking about the future because he says some of them ye shall kill and some of them ye shall scourge.
Because the what in 35 where I say whom you kill between the temples and the altar.
Huh?
35, the last sentence.
I guess when he says whom ye, I guess referring to their fathers.
Okay. So they did kill Zacharias.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So who's Abel and who's Zacharias?
Abel is the brother of Cain. Do you remember any stories about Cain and Abel? Cain slew his brother Abel. This is like in Genesis.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah. I didn't know like how far you got into Genesis when you said you read the first couple, because it's in the first like few chapters. That's why.
Yeah, I read maybe like the first 4 pages.
36. Truly I say to you, all these things shall come upon this generation. 37. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou hast killed the prophet, and the stonest them are sent unto thee.
Abel was a prophet then?
No, Abel was just a brother. They're just talking about righteous blood.
How often would I gather the
Zacharias,
children
son of
together, even
Barachias.
as a hen gathereth her chicken and lays in
whom you slew between the temple.
37
and
anyhow.
all these things are fallen
You got more notes
upon
down
this
here?
generation.
Let's scroll down. And look, up a little more. James 4. Can you talk to Israel or comprise of Moses? Blood of Zacharias. The spirit of Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, the priest, we stood above the people and said to them, they says, God, why transgress ye command the Lord? Because you have forsaken. It's the final book. 37. Jesus wanted to protect Jerusalem and children, but the people were not willing to receive protection. Now God's protection will be entirely removed.
And
Let
then
me get a different version of 37.
NLT.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones God's messengers. How often I have wanted to gather your children together as a hen protects its chicks beneath her wings, but you will not let me. And now look, your house is abandoned and desolate. Is it?
Because he's leaving them.
Well,
And
from
then,
their perspective, does it look like it's abandoned and desolate, or business as usual?
yeah, but see, that's, how Jesus talks.
Yeah.
And then, this is like what, around 33 AD? 33 AD. And then, if you remember history, 70 AD, the Jerusalem temple was destroyed by Rome
Okay.
because they didn't have God's protection.
38, behold, your house is left unto your desolate. 39, for I say unto you, you shall not see me henceforth, till you shall say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. This sucks.
Just like, if you're not going to see me until you believe that I am Him, or
There's something in Revelation,
See
I
me
think, but
henceforth
I need to study a lot of
you shall
Revelation. It's
say,
crazy.
blessed is
But
he.
maybe Jason could help us with this. 'Cause I
Shall
think there's
not
something
see.
about like during the end times, everybody, or at least the Jews, will start to believe and understand, and then that's when, can't remember for sure.
For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth. So you won't see me anymore till you say, blessed is he that cometh in the name. Until you like,
Essentially until they
Believe
believe
me.
and convert.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens, I don't think we have time for another one.
Yeah.
Jesus
So
tells.
does he, then 24, does he still kind of keep on like it's
No,
right?
the 24 and 25 is the Olivet discourse, and basically talks about like his
Still-
second coming.
Okay.
Still a lot of red.
Yeah, it'll go
I like Jesus
red
when
all
he
the
gets
way
like,
through 25.
when he gets angry.
Is there a lot more?
28 chapters. Right? 28?
Jesus after crucifixion, and then it goes to a lot of black.
All right. Good read today.
Jesus talking smack.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like when he starts getting angry and talking smack.
But it's like the same stuff, right? It's just you guys are corrupt.
The message is more or less the same.
He's giving kind of more examples of how, giving us a better
It
insight
is-
into what the
it's,
Pharisees were doing.
Colorful language is like, powerful. Just imagine being on the receiving end. Being,
So like, is this the only way we find out how the Pharisees are actually acting and what they're doing, or is it like listed somewhere else in the Bible too?
Well,
there's
Because
three to
it's
four
like
different
it's,
versions of the same event.
yeah, because it's kind of like I guess the Pharisees weren't doing it right. But
According
is
to
it
Jesus.
just only according to Jesus, right? Is it other references or anything else
So
anywhere else that kind of like supports that, or is it just
not
Because
specifically
let's
the
just-
Pharisees themselves, but like up to the the generations, the group of people that led to the Pharisees, because the Pharisees, I think, were formed somewhere like in between, like maybe 400 years before, but they all came down from the line of like, I guess from Moses and I guess maybe from Levi or something like that. And again, they were still, even from Moses' time up until Jesus' time, a lot of those high priests and all that stuff were priests, therefore were still doing things wrong.
According to who? Like where?
I mean, I don't have specific sites. I would have to find it, but yeah, they were
Because,
allowing,
like, they only-
were allowing for idolatrous worship. They were just all the different types of
Where does that come from? Is it
It's in the
what
Old
I'm saying-
Testament.
huh?
In the Old Testament.
Oh, so it is in the Old Testament. Is it like so it's not in Jesus? Is it? So who's writing that then?
Depends on who from, some of the prophets, maybe some of
So some of the other prophets were talking smack on him too.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, the 37.
Mhm.
The 37, you have a question. Jerusalem. Do you think why the God has the authority and sovereignty? Why can let people trust Him? Because God wants people to receive His love because they want it, not because they have to. Jesus did not force Jerusalem to accept His love. He wanted hearts to be voluntarily loyal to Him. Can you read it?
Yeah.
You read it.
God wants people to receive His love because they want it, not because they have to. Jesus did not force Jerusalem to accept His love. He wanted hearts to be voluntarily loyal to Him. God wants people to come to Him out of faith, so give people free choice. God's sovereignty does not reduce a man's responsibilities. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God gave us, we can choose trust Him or not trust Him.
Who wants to
24.
pray us out? JC? Mike?
Yeah.
Only one chapter? Today
Yeah.
only one chapter.
It's 47.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, okay.
Hey, JC.
All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for this time of fellowship and Bible study. I do pray, Lord, for each one here. Lord, I thank you for Mike and his just connection to your word. Lord, I thank you for the wonderful questions and just the honesty, Lord, that helps to bring those right questions, Lord, to the table. I really appreciate, Lord, that you allow Benny to do that. I just, Lord, pray for Jason that you would, help him in any way, Lord, that he needs to experience you personally. And I do thank you for Irene and all of her sincere faith. Father, will you please bless each one of us? Would you bless Mike and Jason and Benny and Irene and Isaiah? And would you bless us, Lord, so that we can do good to others, Lord, so that it might glorify you. But most of all, Lord, I pray that you help us to enjoy you. Lord, and as we enjoy you, Lord, and as we enjoy your blessing, Lord, that you would be pleased, knowing, Lord, that we look to you as the one who's the source of all that. Father, we're so grateful to you, and I pray that you'll continue, Lord, to let this fellowship be one of peace and joy, and one of real insight where you are with us. So again, Lord, please let Benny have a safe drive home. Lord, we ask that you also bless each of us this week, and let us fully enjoy you and experience you in a way that only you could give to us. So we thank you, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you, JC.
Thank you, JC.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully, till next week. Take care until then.
Yeah.
Appreciate your help and input.
Yeah, we're definitely need help with 24.
It's hard. The end time stuff is hard. So.
Yeah.
Oh, if it's hard for you guys, then what's me and Jason gonna do, right?
They're just gonna ask a lot of questions and hopefully we can answer them.
Hey Jason, you still have more time?
Ask some questions what I did.
Do I have time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of time. Hey, are we still gonna go to Rehagi soon? Like on Saturday? Are we going?
I'm still down. You said the 13th, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we good?
Yeah. I'm right here.
Jason, are you good to go?
Well, I don't know. This is the first time I heard about it.
Oh,
I listened to you earlier when you said you guys were gonna go at 5 o'clock. I said you were going to go to Rahoji's on the Saturday.
5 o'clock for what?
When you were planning to go at 5 o'clock to the desert AM. When you mentioned that, I mentioned this.
Shooting
Yeah.
Like
the
2 weeks ago or something?
Yeah.
Saturday?
I have no idea.
Next
But anyways,
Saturday.
yeah, next Saturday.
Oh, next Saturday.
Well, I don't know.
I was gonna ask you again once I had confirmed that you still on.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I had a question. So, you know, during the retreat, the pastor was mentioning like he was reading like the actual, not the actual, but like the old languages of the text or whatever. And he was saying like, you know, there's a lot of like, not really discrepancies, but like a lot of meanings, I guess. The way it was written, it's not the way I guess we understand it. He says like a day had a different scale than what we believe a day to be today.
If I can,
I guess like
if I can jump in, I believe, and I'm just guessing, I believe he was speaking from to an old Earth creationist who's trying to justify the timeline of creation in order to sync with modern understanding of how old the world is.
no, it's not that. It's like when it says like, let's just say for example like Jesus took 2 days to go walk to over here. And the way we believe it is like 2 days, all right, 48 hours. But I think in the Bible, when it says 2 days, it doesn't equate to 48 hours. I think there's like a different time.
That's what he's saying. Yeah.
And I think what he was saying is when you read the scripture, you translate it, like you'll get an understanding of like the differences. So that's what one of the main problems that I have with reading this is like we apply it to everything modern, you know what I mean? Whereas I think this, it's not.
thousands of years ago. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
So like the picture that we have in our head doesn't match with what's being said in the Bible. So that's why I'm trying to get like a better, clearer understanding of like what, you know,
what they're
I'm trying to get my picture correct.
For them?
basically.
You're absolutely right, and we don't know. You know, you'll need like a first century historian,
Yeah.
archaeologist,
'Cause what-
biblical expert in order to have a
Yeah.
better insight. Oh, in that century, at the Levant region, life was like this.
Yeah.
But as far as how many days, a day, and back in those days, there's still a day here. It's just that
I don't
when the
think
day
so.
starts, might not start at the same time as us, because ours starts at right at midnight.
So a day still was equal to 24 hours?
About people didn't keep track of time the way we did because they didn't have a clock. They just kind of go by when the sun goes up
Saying the sun
and the
dies.
sun goes out.
But generally like 24 hours, right?
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll give by off a few minutes,
approximately, yeah,
But yeah.
So a day still equated generally to 24 hours?
close enough.
Well, I think that's where the interpretation is difficult, and you're totally right because the first thing that they will tell you to do in what they call Bible interpretation class, which is called hermeneutics, is context.
Mm-hmm.
That have to remember it's in the context of the ancient Near East, and so that's why you're right. Sometimes we may say something, for example, like, "Oh, Jesus walked for 2 days," whereas in those days. 2 days may be just a matter of like a what they call it, a figure of speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like I know in places like in Africa, like you'll say, "Oh, I'll be there, tomorrow," or "I'll be there soon," and it's not tomorrow, it's not soon. They're just telling you they'll be there sometime in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It does depend on the context. So I understand what the pastor's saying. That's why, again, it's a good idea to have several different kind of translations about these things, because something like the NIV or the New Living Translation would be able to tell you, yeah, maybe it wasn't exactly necessarily 2 days. It could have been, for sure. But there is a figure of speech that if they specifically say 2 days, it may be just a couple of days. We don't know. So that is possible. But really, it's more about, those are kind of little things that don't matter too much.
That don't matter, so I need to just like disregard, or not really disregard, just don't pay too much attention
I have
to those like little details.
I have a Bible.
Yeah, because another example, what he was saying is like, any body of water was a sea back then. So like a
the
lake,
Sea of
a lake
Galilee.
could be a sea.
The Sea of Galilee. I was a lake, really.
Yeah, so it's not really like literally a sea.
That's healthy.
So does that mean like in all the newer versions, it's all referred to as lakes now,
Peter 2.
or are they still called seas?
Might be called.
Because if it's translated to modern language, it should all be all lakes now, right?
So we can take a look.
Can you find that Peter 2?
Or do they still call them seas?
Peter 2.
Galilee.
Yeah.
Peter 2,
So Galilee was actually
chapter
a lake.
3, verse 8. Peter 2.
So should it be the Lake of Galilee then?
Maybe. I mean, we'll have to look it up. I can't really.
But do not
just
forget
throwing that.
this one thing.
I'm
Dear
just trying
friends,
to,
With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day.
Which one? 2 Peter 3:8.
2 Peter.
Yeah, so these
3,
little things,
8,
I've just
3,
been
8.
trying to like clarify a couple things and get my picture
3, 8.
correct.
Yeah, this is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, kind of. I feel like what JC was saying is that like even that whole message, at least for Genesis, wasn't about like nitpicking the days and how long the days was. It was about like the creation, that there was one creator. And
Yeah, I'm not really referring to Genesis. I'm just referring to like,
the shoe buttons. I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's off my mind now.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, I think it's a good idea to have something like the NIV or the New Living Translation or the Message around. It does help to clarify things a little bit more, and it puts it in real simple language. But yeah, those are things that, they don't have much bearing on like salvation, things like that.
Mhm.
Those things are going to be debated forever, but that's going to be at a literary, historical, scholarly type level.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you were pointing to, is that, if this is just a scholarly, theoretical, philosophical, theological discussion,
Mhm.
that's going to go on forever, right?
Yeah.
The end of it, like what is the practical issue of it? And so something like, for example, is the Bible, when it says like these specific words, what do we do with that? And I would say that the best thing to do is let the scholars debate it. For us, it's not that important. It was 2 days. It could have been a couple days. We just know that some time passed, and that Jesus took his time. Maybe he didn't go right away. And so there's lots of lessons we can learn from the general idea of just time passing. Maybe we should learn to be patient. Things don't happen right away. These are the things that we can start to take in ourselves. But whether it's like 2 hours or 3 hours, whether there were 2 angels or 1 angel at the resurrection, these are things that can be justified by scholars in all different ways. But for us, what really matters is how does it help us to know how God is, what he's like? Is he consistent in the Word? And can I trust this God? If he's always changing or he's different, then I can't trust him. But if he's consistent, and if he's somebody that doesn't change, then I can rely on that. But if he's different every day, I can't trust him. I don't want to trust somebody like that. So hopefully that's what studying the Bible will help us do, is to see that God actually is very consistent from the first word in Genesis to the last word in Revelation. There's this consistency that you will see and realize, yeah, this is God. And then somebody else will come and say, well, no, this is God. Say, no, that's not God, because he's not, the way you're saying is not consistent with the whole Bible. And then you can get into arguments about, well, then why do we have only these books in the Bible? Why don't we include other books in the Bible? And again, that's a scholarly issue. That's something, again, that theologians will discuss. But for us, if you did want to include those, you'll clearly see there's just no consistency there. And then if you really dig into the history, you realize, yeah, these things are what we call apocryphal. In other words, we don't know where their origin is from. So, but on the on face value, all that matters is, how does it help us to know God? And what fruit does it bear in my life? Do I have more clarity about what God wants me to do? Do I have more joy in my life or peace in my life when I do what the Word says? And that's what I would say. Do what it says, like a cookbook, like a lab book in science. You can do it and see what happens. God says pray and pray. God says don't worry, and see what happens. And I think you'll find that it works. But is there anything specifically, Jason, that that we can be praying for? Something that that you want to see happen, that you think, well, if it's going to happen, only God can make it happen. Those are the types of prayers that God will really answer, because He wants you to know that He's there, and He wants to show you that it can't possibly be any other way, and then He'll let you know that that's how much He cares and loves, cares for you and loves you, and how He really wants you to know Him. So if there's anything specific, you can text me or you can let me know, all this. But it's got to be practical, something practical for you, something that will make it, this is the life, this is God's life, this is what really matters.
It's very, very interesting. Thanks for sharing, man. You can't see me, but I'm right here.
Yeah, I forgot you were there.
Jason's in deep thoughts, ponderance right now. He's like, oh man. Well, we're here to help him out.
It's just a lot to take in.
Oh yeah, take it all.
Yeah.
All in. Front side, back side, all around.
It's just interesting, because you kind of you think about it, right? There's like all different Bibles. There's different religions. Like, I'm kind of like following or reading this one, but then like if I were to bust out with the Quran or some other Bible, you guys are just totally like, mm-mm.
No, I'll read it.
Oh no, I think you should read it. I totally do. I think I encourage everybody to read it and see if it's consistent, but don't read it just to believe it. Same thing with the Bible.
Yeah.
But study it. That's what we're doing here, and hopefully you'll see a consistency there. And there's a lot of people who say that there's inconsistencies, and yeah, those are things that scholars can argue about forever. But in the end, what is the consistency within there? I mean, people who study Shakespeare are looking for the same thing, and people who study any type of text are looking for the same thing. And with the Bible, it's no different. And so we know it's Shakespeare. You can tell them, hey, look, Shakespeare wrote this. And then a Shakespeare expert will say, no, he didn't. And, but how do we know that? Because they've studied it. And same thing with the Bible is when you read it, you say, yeah, this God is consistent from all 66 books in here by these 40 some odd authors. It's the same kind of thing. The God is very consistent through it. And then if you read the Quran, you see, oh man, this God is not consistent. Okay? And how do you explain what the Bible is trying, or what the Quran is trying to say about this God? It's really hard to pinpoint. But Muslim scholars are still there doing the same thing. They're trying to figure it out, okay? But they just have a harder time because, archaeology and, all these sciences are actually on the side of the Bible, not so much on the side of the Quran. So, but there is support for the Quran nonetheless. It's just, it's a little bit, a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
I don't know. See, like a scholarly thing, I think in order to really believe, you just have to have, I know they say don't have blind faith, but it's kind of like blind faith. Like you need to just, you know what I mean?
Well, it can't be blind faith for sure. It cannot be. It has to be knowledgeable faith. Okay, so in other words, it's like if you go to a doctor who says,
because faith in itself is kind of
already blind.
Blind.
Yes. Yeah.
Faith is blind.
It's something that is universally agreed upon by unbiased neutral observers, you don't need, faith is not required. Faith is only required when is something that is more spectacular, more unbelievable. That's when faith comes in, right? For example, if I have like stage 1 cancer, I can say, okay, I have faith that the chemo or the drugs is gonna work, right? My faith could be wrong, but it's like I need faith to make sure it doesn't get any worse. But if I have some stage 3, stage 4 cancer, it's like faith ain't gonna do a whole lot.
Right, and so that's why, and this is why the Bible is actually very good on its own definition of faith. Faith is not blind. Faith depends on the word. It depends on knowledge. And if you don't have any knowledge of the word, you cannot possibly have faith. And that's when Paul said, how will you believe unless somebody tells you? How will you how can you have faith? But how can you know unless somebody brings you the word? And so it depends on knowledge. Now, there's a really problem in the Christian church of confusing faith with hope. Okay, and so they call these faith healers, but they're hope healers. Hope is things that you don't know, that you can't see, and it depends on the person that you or what, the person who's telling you whether or not there is hope. Okay, and so blind hope is a problem, just like blind faith is. Okay, but with hope, we certainly know less about what will happen. Okay, unless we're given specifics, like if a doctor says, "Hey, you're going to make this through. You have 90% chance of making it through." Well, then you have hope, right? Okay, but if you say, "Well, I believe God can heal me. There's a 10% chance that I can heal." That's not faith. That's hope. You're hoping that you're going to get healed, and so that kind of confusion often sets in. But the Bible is very clear in defining what hope is and what faith is. And if we look at their definition, it makes a whole lot of sense. Problem is, a lot of Christians confuse the two. And so that's why these faith healers, which are really just hope healers, are just cashing in on the stupidity of people who are not willing to really listen to the difference. And so it's really important. That's why we study the Bible, so that we see what's the consistent message here. And then we see what other people have come across, and you'll see that it's actually very consistent, that it makes sense. Faith and hope are different. And then you think about, well, what do we have hope in? We have hope in the things that God says are going to happen. In other words, we have hope in His will. If it's God's will, we can have hope in that. So if God says, "I'm not willing that any should perish," we can have the hope that everyone we pray for can be saved. That is a hope with hope in it. Now, faith depends on the Word. If you don't have the word, you can't possibly have faith. Just like, I'm going to pick this doctor to do heart surgery on. I don't know anything about it. That's stupid. That's not faith. Okay, I mean that's just being done. But if I know about this doctor, I know that he's got a lot of skills. I can put my faith in that. No problem. I can put my faith in that. And then of course there's love, which is the works that we do. It's not a feeling, it's what we do. And so you see the Bible is very consistent. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13, there's faith, hope, and love. Love is the greatest. Well, what's our faith? Faith is based on the Word. Jesus is the Word. And then we have your hope. What is your hope? It's hope in the will of God.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
The subject matter, the faith, is actually pretty near and dear to me in terms of my personal belief. But we're not going to get into that right now or today. But your interpretation of the predication of the foundation, how faith is established, in your narrative, it's built upon the Word. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Built upon the Word, right?
Yes, faith has to be built on truth. If it's not built on truth, that faith is shaky.
Okay.
Then you don't have faith. You're just having that kind of blind faith, and that's just speculation.
Okay. First, you said the Word. You used that word a few times, so I've been kind of latching onto that. But now you're saying truth.
Well, because when we talk about from a Christian standpoint, we say the Word. Okay. But from a secular standpoint, we have to say the truth because that's really what resonates.
Okay, you're catering that to your audience, your message to the audience. Gotcha.
Right. Yeah.
So if it was a Christian's perspective, if we're basing our faith on words, that would be the word of Jesus. Yes?
Yeah, the Word of God.
The word of Jesus, and the word of God is this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so essentially, for a Christian, this is where you place your faith.
Well, because your faith has to be placed on somebody, right, or on something.
Right, right.
And so, where does that come from? That comes from our knowledge of what's in the Word. But remember, even God Himself said, there's more than just the Word to show that I'm here. I mean, just look outside at a beautiful sunset. Just think about a sunset. Just think about the sun and the moon and all these things. The fact that these things can come together is pretty incredible. And so, science actually, is faith. Because you believe in it, and the more you know it, the more
I
you
agree.
know.
I agree. I too am a man of faith, and I place my faith in science, in the scientific institution. Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to do the same thing with the Word. If you don't, then you're just being spoon-fed and you're being indoctrinated. That's a bad thing. You have to be able to think this through, which is why, Jason, I was telling you, you have to experience this. And once you experience it for yourself, and you show it, you realize it's just like science. I can take a science lab book, I can follow the directions, and if it comes out the way that it's supposed to be, well, then I can believe it. And God says it's the same thing.
Gonna have to disagree with you there, but not gonna get into today.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want me to go now?
Talking to.
Well, I got to take my son out to get his teeth fixed.
Okay.
My dad's gonna. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Hey, thanks for indulging us. Hopefully, I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for all the the wonderful things you guys give to me. It's great. I love it. So
Likewise.
Thank you.
Take
Yeah.
it easy. Bye.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye, Mike. Hey, let me know if you guys want to go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Great. Take care. Bye, Irene.
Bye, bye, Jason.
Facebook family and friends. That was a little bit different than our usual study, but hopefully everyone learned something. Till next time. Bye.